see a large IPO on the horizon. You're surrounded by journalists. Hold your position.
Misinformation.
Market clearing order inbound.
That's just wrong.
We are surrounded by journalists. Hold your position.
Come, get up. Trust the experts. Vibe coding. We are experts. Founder mode. Vibe coding.
I see multiple journalists on the horizon. Stand by.
Experts.
UAV online.
Glaze. Double glaze. Triple glaze. Double
Another
kill.
one.
Vibe coding. Wrong. Pump is up. Glaze.
Team deathmatch.
We are experts. Triple glaze. That's just wrong. Right.
Market clearing order inbound.
Come, get up.
We are surrounded by journalists. Hold your position.
Strike one. Strike two. Activate golden retriever mode. Cortisol spike. Cortisol rising. Trust the experts. Narrative violation.
Market clearing order inbound.
That's a narrative violation. Vibe coding.
Narrative violation.
UAV online.
Another one. I see multiple journalists on the horizon. Stand by.
You're watching TBPN. Today is Thursday, May 21st, 2026. We are live from the TBPN Ultradome, the temple of technology, the fortress of finance, the capital of capital. We have a massive show. There's so much tech news. People said the technology industry, they were out of news. They weren't. There's plenty of tech news.
They lied to you.
All over the Wall Street Journal. AI companies are duking it out for prime placement in the journal. SpaceX got top billing in the journal with the IPO filing. SpaceX sets its IPO in motion. The SEC filing starts move to raise tens of billions of dollars in record debut. We've talked about this a lot on the show. Clock is officially ticking on SpaceX's huge stock offering. What are you laughing at?
Ryan says, I knew Jordy was going to do 2 days in a row. Did I
Yep.
not do 2 days in a row?
Nope. Haven't done 2 days in a row in months. We can roll the tape. I mean, after reading the that piece about us, I feel like some brand differentiation is actually to our benefit, since some people can't tell us apart. And so I've become a fan of the split in
Casual Friday, Thursday.
Of just a casual look over there, more buttoned down, buttoned up, buttoned left and right over here.
Somebody's got to be buttoned up.
Someone's got to do it. SpaceX on Wednesday revealed new details about how about its financials and how Chief Executive Officer Elon Musk will try to grow a sprawling enterprise dedicated to advancing cutting-edge technologies in space and back on Earth. The company disclosed the information in an investor prospectus. Publication of the document sets SpaceX on course to potentially raise $80 billion or more from a stock sale as soon as next month. The rumored date is what, June? July?
Was it June 12th?
June 12th. That's just 20 days away, basically. They're going to beat out Saudi Aramco that raised $26 billion when it went public in 2019. Musk has touted out-of-this-world objectives for the company, from deploying a huge number of artificial intelligence satellites in the future to colonizing Mars. Texas-based SpaceX has distinct businesses ranging from rocket launch to satellite operations to a nascent AI unit that it's racing to catch up with rivals. Founded by Musk nearly a quarter century ago. Yeah, it has been a long time. SpaceX revolutionized the commercial space industry. The company has grown from a startup with a handful of employees that almost went out of business to one of the world's most valuable private companies with over 22,000 workers as of March 31st. It controls technologies that competitors and even nation states haven't been able to fully match. SpaceX reported its revenue last year at $18.67 billion, and Dan Primack had a post saying that the business was smaller than he expected. He's going on CNBC today to talk about the IPO, has had a couple interesting takes. People are going back and forth. Overall, the reception has been the S1 is an extremely enjoyable read. Kevin Kwok says it's the most enjoyable S1 read in a long time. Reads so easy, like sci-fi or fiction, and
it's kind of the perfect. It's kind of the perfect post,
or just regular.
Because
fiction.
if you're pro tech, you like space, you're excited about space.
Yes.
That could be a positive.
Yes.
But if you're a bear,
yeah.
you can say it reads almost like
pure
science fiction.
No.
Of course, the best TAM slide ever.
Probably the best TAM slide ever. Sawyer Merritt has the screenshot here. SpaceX and IPO filing. We believe we have identified the largest actionable total addressable market in human history. We estimate that our quantifiable TAM is $28.5 trillion, consisting of $370 billion in space from space-enabled solutions, $1.6 trillion in connectivity across $870 billion in Starlink broadband, and $740 billion in Starlink mobile, as well as additional opportunities in enterprise and government.
$26.5 trillion in AI across $2.4 trillion in AI infrastructure, $760 billion in consumer subscriptions, $600 billion in digital advertising.
That's massive.
Well, is that for X?
I don't know.
The idea. So
and
everything else is more believable.
Enterprise.
Everything else is more believable to me than X getting meaningful digital advertising penetration.
Yeah, I guess the time matters here, because a lot of these markets aren't this big currently, I think. I don't know. But I guess over time, if you think about the next 25 years, the next 100 years, I don't know if these are inflation adjusted, but there's lots of things that could happen. For illustrative purposes of sizing our addressable market, SpaceX excluded China and Russia from global estimates. I feel like you might want to put in China and Russia over the next couple decades. Who knows? Maybe we become best buds with both countries. Anything can happen.
That would be
great. World peace might come, and that's going to expand TAM. That's an economic incentive for world peace. I like to see it.
There we go.
There were some beautiful photos that were shared in the start of the S1. Lots of pictures to start, and then it gets very text dense. But the photos were, I liked them. I thought that they were unique. I hadn't seen them like that often, and they felt like they were kept in the back pocket for a while. And I don't know, they just like remind you of SpaceX. It's like a beautiful thing. Dan Primack says, incredible that Goldman beat out Morgan Stanley for the SpaceX IPO, lead left, given that Michael Grimes returned to Morgan Stanley in part for this deal. Of course, Morgan Stanley is on the deal, but it is a big win for Goldman that DJ SpaceX is at the helm. Goldman Sachs & Co. LLC lead left in the joint book running managers, but everyone's getting a piece of the SpaceX IPO at this size. Will Bitsky says, shout out to the Goldman analyst that was ritually sacrificed to win this lead left IPO. It must have been an incredible amount of work. It's not just the biggest IPO of all time. It's not just this incredibly complex structure with multiple businesses. It's also you're reporting to Elon Musk. Elon Musk is your client, and he's going to ask for things probably more aggressively than anyone who's a CEO of a company that's going public. So lots of things. Lots of winners from the SpaceX IPO. Luke Nosek is a huge one. He was at Founders Fund, co-founded Founders Fund with Peter Thiel. His next role will be leading, this is from a long time ago, he left to start GigaFund, which was billed at the time as a new investment firm that initially will be focused on raising capital for Elon Musk's SpaceX, a Founders Fund portfolio company where Nosek is a director. And so David Kwan says, today I learned Luke Nosek left FF to start a fund exclusively focused on investing in SpaceX. There are a few of those that we're hearing about these days. Of course, exclusive does not mean 100% of the capital went into SpaceX. It just means that they were very, very focused on that. GigaFund has a lot of different companies in the portfolio cover. We've had a bunch of founders on the show who have raised money from GigaFund, but SpaceX is where Luke is a director, deeply involved, and has focused on participating in many, many rounds. And so conviction will do that to an MF, says Pocket Jacks Capital. Lots of big winners. Frank asked, Codex for SpaceX fair value based on the S1 should be an interesting build up to the IPO. What was the result from
Sid lands around 1.1 to 1.5.
It's not bad.
Million.
That's not bad. Bull case gets to 1.7 to 1.9 if investors assume Anthropic sticks. AI infrastructure margins are strong. Starship unlocks major new markets, and public market scarcity drives demand. But $2 trillion means the market is effectively assigning something like 800 billion to 1 trillion to the AI orbital compute story on top of an already rich Starlink valuation. Possible is an IPO mania print, but that's not what I'd call for fair. So we'll see what happens. I mean, the big news was the partnership with Anthropic, where Anthropic is spending over $1 billion a month, I think. It's ramping up.
$15 billion
a year. And that's huge for SpaceX, given that they did 18.5 or something last year. This is a huge jump up in. I mean, they have to be one of the biggest neoclouds like overnight with this.
Yeah, I was trying to find
huge.
I was trying to find some of our conversations from last year where we were, XAI. And Grok was growing, but maybe not at the rate that, not close to the rate that would require that much infrastructure.
Yeah, finding product market fit on the actual distribution side.
Yeah,
obviously we love X, but it's not the biggest platform.
Yeah, it wasn't. It's certainly shoot for the stars.
Yeah,
and if you miss, you have a pretty great neocloud business, right? Anthropic has to pay way above traditional neocloud pricing for this compute, and so ends up being a great outcome for SpaceX.
Yes. Well, Antonio Gracias is another investor who's absolutely printing off the SpaceX IPO. Antonio Gracias at Valor has 30 entities invested in SpaceX, in case you were wondering what truly going long looks like. He added some corrections saying that some people were assigning like, oh, he's the only investor. And he says, no, I have a lot of LPs. I do a whole bunch of different funds. Like this is not just his windfall, although of course he's going to be doing very, very well personally. But so many different Valor 4 Space Holdings LLC, Valor M33-6, like so many different investment vehicles because Elon has raised money so many times, both for primary capital and for tender offers for employees who had worked at SpaceX for 15 years and needed to buy houses, needed some liquidity. Elon was very good about never doing a down round, growing the valuation very, very gradually over decades to get to this point. And Peter Haig says, just reading the SpaceX SEC document, one thing that sticks out is the capital spend on AI is 3x that on space. It's an AI company with some rockets, which is a wild pivot at it's the 11th hour. You know, this has been a rocket company for 20 years or 15 years, then an internet company with Starlink, but that was still so tied and so clear and so quick to get to like a logical link. Like you needed the launch capacity to build Starlink. And so you had this new capability, satellite internet. It was amazing. And it went from idea to launching the satellites to consumers actually using it when they're traveling, camping, off the grid, real, and then showing up in planes and all sorts of different applications. It became very, very relevant, very real, very quickly. And the Colossus XAI, that felt like a different company because it was. It felt like a different initiative, but it has just become so big so quickly.
Yeah, and looking back at the plays Elon and his investors have made around this over the last year, right? There was that felt like somewhat of a coordinated effort was it beginning of this year or late last year when suddenly everyone started talking about space data centers very suddenly. Remember Gavin Baker started coming out talking about it. That's around the time when they sort of floated the, I believe it was December of last year, started floating the idea of like what the potential valuation would be, started building that AI narrative, made a play for Cursor, partnered with Anthropic, even though, only a few months ago they were much more combative.
And name calling.
So yeah, I think this is why Elon has been able to accumulate so much capital. Is like he is pretty much the best in the world at like making plays.
Yeah, making plays.
And doing whatever it takes.
Yeah. So the most recent play, unrelated to the news that made the front page of the Wall Street Journal, Anthropic revenue surges set to post first profit. Sales seen reaching $10.9 billion in second quarter, up 130% over previous quarter. Truly, in the title of the in the actual URL of the Wall Street Journal article, they call it mind-blowing growth about to propel Anthropic to its first profit. Absolutely fantastic execution. So Tom Brown, co-founder of Anthropic, says, we're expanding our partnership with SpaceX and we'll be scaling up GB200 capacity on Colossus 2 throughout June. Appreciate Elon Musk and the team helping us find good homes for the Claudes. Is Claude plural? I thought it was all one Claude, and the purpose of Anthropic was to build Claude, and Claude will eventually build Claude. But I guess you have multiple instances of Claude running on different servers on different GB200s. Ray Wang over at SemiAnalysis sort of shares a little bit more. Anthropic's Q2 revenue is set to increase by over 200%. Will post an operating profit. The AI will never be profitable group is in absolute shambles right now. There have been a lot of folks who have been just doubting time and time again, will this ever make money? Will this ever make sense? And Dylan Patel sort of laid out on the Dwarkesh Patel show this idea that at a certain point, the leading models might actually be able to raise money because or raise prices because they're driving so much economic value. SemiAnalysis also put out a table showing for particular workflows that would take them, $1,000 of human time that they would have to hire more people for. They were able to use AI and actually get an equivalent result for a 10th of the cost or a 100th of the cost or even, a 30% savings sometimes. Anyway.
Lisan Al-Gaib says, can someone check on Gary, February 23rd, 2026? He said, turns out Gen AI was a scam.
I had to check the date on this because this seems like something he would have written in like 2024. And I would have been like, okay, yeah. Maybe the usages are a little limited. Maybe there is some sort of wall here, the data wall, or maybe we won't be able to, maybe we'll need new paradigm. But to write this in 2026, when we're in like the fastest period of acceleration in terms of actual value from these models, is pretty remarkable. I'm interested to see where he goes from this. Is he going to double down? Is he going to stick with this? It has been a couple months since February.
I think the entire crypto boom and NFTs in particular just broke a lot of people's brains.
Yeah, and VR, metaverse too.
Metaverse
is another thing that was over-promised.
Metaverse
under-delivered.
Metaverse, potentially even more.
Yeah. There was a lot of discussion about this will destroy Hollywood. This will destroy movies. Like everyone.
With the
will be
metaverse,
everything
there was never a moment where you could use a product and have a mind-blowing experience.
Well, without paying for it, like you had to buy.
No. I'm just saying, like, period.
No. The Apple Vision Pro demo, like there was a day you called me and you were like, "Why is everyone losing their mind on the timeline over the Apple Vision Pro? Do I need to buy one of these?" And I was like, "It's kind of like a preview. It's not like perfectly there. I like it, but it's."
I don't even think
niche.
I
But there was. It was
I
the
don't
current
think
thing.
you're remembering correctly
It was the current
because
thing.
there was no moment where I wanted to buy one.
No. You didn't want to, but you recognized that it was the current thing when the Apple Vision Pro launched. For like that week, when everyone got them delivered and they tried them, there were a lot of people that
They
were
had
saying,
Vision
"This
Pro
is-
psychosis.
They had Vision Pro psychosis. A lot of people had NFT psychosis, all sorts of psychosis. We'll see how the AI psychosis develops. It goes both ways.
Yeah, but anyways, comparing it to anyone can have
Yes.
a pretty wild experience with AI.
Yes.
In on like a ton of different services.
Yeah.
You could never do that with
Yeah.
Metaverse.
So Lisan Al-Gaib is contrasting Gary Marcus's Substack post with what's happened in the AI industry. Anthropic valuation up 173% since the start of the year, posting profits in Q2, according to the Wall Street Journal. OpenAI valuation up 67% since the start of the year. And OpenAI general purpose model solves longstanding and well-known AirDos problem. Is it AirDish or AirDose?
I believe it's AirDosh.
AirDosh problem. The two dots over the O get me on the pronunciation without a scaffold. And so there was a lot of questions about how hard is it to solve these problems. But fortunately, we have Tyler Cosgrove, who's going to take us through what actually happened with this solution to this math problem that people are very excited about. Noam Brown said, "Today we are sharing that a general-purpose internal OpenAI model achieved a breakthrough on one of the best-known combinatorial geometry problems. Less than 1 year ago, frontier AI models were at IMO gold-level performance. I expect this pace of progress to continue." And Siddhar Ramesh, I don't know if he was joking about this bet, but he says, "I have lost my $30,000 bet that AI would never solve the planar unit
Yes,
distance
I believe that
problem."
was a joke.
That's a narrative
That's a joke.
violation.
Yeah, I think if you
he
go into the
jokes around a
comments.
lot, but no. But a lot of people were surprised and a lot of people were excited about this. So take us through what actually happened.
Okay, yeah. So I can basically go through like a simple explanation of what the problem actually is.
Okay.
So just for some context, Paul Erdős, kind of this legendary mathematician, throughout the 20th century, he basically proposes, I think the number is like a little over 1,200 different like little problems. These are the Erdős problems. People talk a lot about these as like goals for AI to solve. And you've heard like over time, there's been kind of like small iterative kind of solutions to a lot of these problems.
Yeah, sort of like collaborative, a mathematician working alongside an AI
and
model,
sometimes
or an easy one, just getting.
There's like a main kind of like place where all of the solutions go. So sometimes people will find like AI will like find a different paper that wasn't actually put on the website, and then they're like, oh, AI solved it, but it's not actually true. But this is kind of the first time we've really seen kind of a big step change. Like this is actually a new solution. This is using like kind of novel
It doesn't
ideas
exist
here.
in papers out there already.
Yeah. So this was problem number 90. So I can kind of read the question, then I can explain what it means.
Yeah.
So it's, does every set of n distinct points in the real plane contain at most n to the 1 plus O of 1 over log n many pairs which are 1 apart? Okay, so like what does that mean?
Yeah.
Basically, we have like the real plane, right, 2D, and we have a bunch of points on it. What is basically the how many like pairs of those will be basically 1 unit apart, and what's like the max number? Like how do we basically organize those points such that we have the max number of them?
It's
right?
not just a grid.
No, so you would think that, but I can basically explain why. So let's kind of like formalize this better. So we have U of n, right, and this is basically the largest number of unit distance pairs among n points in the plane. Okay, so basically, like we're thinking about like how do we solve this? Naively, it's like, okay, what if we just take all the points, we have n points, and we just put them in a line, and unit distance apart, right? So it looks something like this. Right, so for this example, we have 4 points, but it doesn't matter, it's just n. So 1, 2, 3, 4, how many pairs are there? There's 3. Right?
Okay, yeah.
So basically this scales with n minus 1.
Yeah.
Right? So you could have a billion points, and there's 9999 whatever,
Yep.
n minus 1.
Yeah.
Okay, so now if we put it in a grid,
Yeah.
what happens, right? So if we have a square grid here,
Okay.
there's 9 points here,
Yep.
and then how many pairs are there? I believe there's 12. And basically, as this number scales up, it's still linear, so it's 2n.
Okay.
Basically, if you do a billion points, it's 2 billion pairs.
2 billion pairs.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then,
The
basically,
pair is specifically that line. The line
correct.
represents
Yes,
the pair.
yes,
Okay.
because it's one unit
Yeah.
distance, right?
And,
because
and you
diagonal
specifically
doesn't
don't,
count.
diagonal doesn't count because
It's not one.
unit
Yeah, it's not a
length.
unit distance.
Got it.
So then, okay, what's the next thing we can do? The next kind of configuration is what's called the lattice construction.
Okay.
And so if we can pull up a picture of it, it's this kind of crazy looking grid that has all these super like intricate, lines in between. You can see it on the. This is from the OpenAI blog. If we can pull it up here.
Oh, I think I saw this.
So this is what it looks like.
Okay.
So if you can like zoom in on any of these points, you see that it somehow it looks like a grid, right? But
Yeah.
there's not just
This
kind
is
of pairs
trippy.
at the edges, right? There's like way more.
Okay.
So this scales at n
Interesting.
to the 1 plus o 1 over log n, right? This is basically the best kind of example that we know works.
Yes, but not a proof.
So
problem?
we know we can find this, but is this
Okay.
the upper bound? We
Okay.
don't know,
Okay.
right? So this is basically the lower bound.
Okay.
So then the question is like, we have the lower bound,
Yep.
which is this is the best one we found.
Yep.
This is the most number of pairs. And then we've theorized that the high bound, upper bound, is scales with n to the 4/3. And then so Erdos, the original conjecture that he thought that the upper bound is still going to be less than n to the 1 plus o of 1. So this means o of 1, it's like as it scales, as n scales to infinity, right? So o of 1 basically scale to 0. It go to 0 as n goes to infinity. And then basically OpenAI figured out that this is not true, and that there actually are some n's for which this kind of max number of pairs is greater than the original Erdos conjecture. So for infinitely many n, this is not for every single n, right? So it's not like 5 points or whatever, but there are infinitely many n's for which this is true.
Okay.
That it scales with, that it's greater than n plus n to the 1 plus some constant.
Interesting.
Okay, so that was basically the big thing, right? This is like,
Yeah. Huge if you're into math.
decades old problem, right?
Yep.
This is an incredible thing. Terrence Tao is like, wow, this is incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically the overview of the problem.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's very exciting because this is not like a math model. This is just an internal model,
Sure.
general like
Yeah,
reasoning.
Yeah.
You could say it's like generally intelligent.
Yes, I think you could say that. And then I think it's interesting because from like public perception, it seems like this didn't take like that many tokens. This was not like millions of dollars of inference time.
Sure.
It was like maybe something like hundreds to thousands of dollars of inference compute
That's
spent.
very interesting because we were talking about like Gwern's conjecture about like novel ideas coming from just like brute forcing different connections between things, and this is more token efficient.
Yeah, this is not just taking some solution to a different Erdos problem and just like spamming it on all 1,200 of the problems
Sure,
and
sure,
one
sure.
of them works.
Okay.
This is like kind of a new novel idea. Like maybe this solution is, the way that they found this, it's like super complex. You can read the proof. It's like 18 pages long.
Wow.
I don't really know what it means,
Yeah.
but like there's a lot of the mathematicians are saying, okay, this is actually could be useful to a lot of other problems.
That's cool.
This is like a new way to do things.
Interesting.
So I think it's like very exciting. This is like
Yeah.
maybe similar to the AlphaFold moment or something
That's
where
cool.
now this is like a real kind of step change in math capabilities.
Are people going to run out of problems? How many more problems do we have?
I don't know the exact number. I think so. There's 1,200 in total
Okay.
of just Erdos problems.
Yeah.
I believe the number is around 500, 600 of ones that have been solved. But there's so many of these like famous open math problems.
Yeah.
There's like the Millennium Prize, right?
Sure.
$1 million if you win.
How much did
believe.
OpenAI win? if you get $1 million for the Millennium Prize, how much do they get for cracking this puppy
open? So every single Erdos prize, if you solve a problem, there is a prize.
Yes.
And so
I'm anchored at $1 million, so.
Yes, so these are going to be slightly less. I think this one was around $500.
500 smackaroos.
I believe the Erdos problem scale, there's $25, $100, and $500. So this was kind of the big one.
Yeah.
But,
non-dilutive financing.
Yeah, non-dilutive financing.
Yeah. So it could be a revenue pathway for OpenAI.
I have to imagine that the inference bill for this was over $500.
I think so. Yes.
So the mathematician that just works with a coffee still undefeated.
So obviously, okay, what does this actually impact? Does this bring us to novel science? Maybe not, but it does show that okay, these models are not just the average of all their training data.
Sure.
They can actually make novel ideas,
that
novel
are outside of
improvements.
distribution, outside of the training data.
Yes.
It's not just knowledge retrieval.
Yeah, I think this is very much contrary to kind of the Gary Marcus take, where these are just parrots. These are just predicting the next token. These aren't actually intelligent. Yeah, I think it's very exciting.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for breaking
Why
it down.
don't you hit the gong for the researchers?
Yes. Boom.
Thank you for breaking that down. As universities, classes become live podcast settings. Podcasts are becoming.
This is where we're going.
Universities.
This is where we're going. Let's take everyone through our lineup today because we have Alex Tabarrok from George Mason University and co-host of the Marginal Revolution podcast with good friend of the show, Tyler Cowen, coming on.
Tabarrockinator.
A minute. Bill Clerico from Collective Capital is coming on. Alex Nordstrom. Convective Capital. From Spotify, the co-CEO of Spotify is coming on. Then we have Jordan Schneider back from China Talk. Going to probably spend a few minutes talking about the underwhelming summit in China and then move on to a bunch of other talks, a bunch of other topics. And then we have Christina Lee Storm from Secret Level joining at 1 p.m. Pacific. So the other news, rumors about OpenAI is being closing in on the IPO filing, and that pushed out Nvidia's results, which is normally something I would expect on the front page, but there was too much AI news. Nvidia results skyrocket on rise of AI agents. We talked a little bit about it yesterday, but the big news is that they're doing an $80 billion share buyback authorization, and Take Him was bullish. People were wondering where he would sit on Nvidia. He laid out a pretty convincing case. You can go listen to the interview. It aired yesterday on TBPN. But without further ado, we have Alex Tabarrok in the waiting room. Let's bring him in to the TBPN Ultradome. Alex, how are you doing? I think we don't have audio. Can we check your microphone? Make sure it's working. We're good. Okay, we are. It was something on our end. How are you doing?
I'm still doing great.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
Fantastic.
Perfect. It's great to have you on the show.
It's been far too long. I'm a huge fan. I've read Marginal Revolution since I studied economics back in 2010, and huge fan of the Marginal Revolution podcast. I very much enjoyed your debate with Tyler Cowen all about the cost disease or Baumol effect, and I think we should start there, and then we can go all over the place in AI and labor and the economy broadly. But do you want to start with an introduction on the Baumol effect? Maybe why it captured your interest and some of the work that you've done around it?
Sure. I mean, probably a lot of people have seen this famous chart where you have a bunch of things going up in price and a bunch of things going down in price.
Yeah.
And the question is why? I mean, the things that are going up in price, I think we all know, is like, healthcare, education, right?
Yep.
And then things are going down in price, often manufactured goods like automobiles, quality adjusted, or televisions, computers, things like that. And the question is like, why? Why do we see these big differences? And what Baumol pointed to was that there's a problem with service industries, like education. Think about what I do, which is teaching students. And you think about what Pythagoras did. Like Pythagoras, he's got, 10 or 12 students around him, and he puts a triangle, in the sand and, draws some math there. It's more or less what I do, right? I mean, thousands of years later, maybe I'm using chalk or maybe I'm using PowerPoint, but basically, it's me and a few students, and productivity really has not gone up at all in the education industry. Yeah. So because of that, prices have to go up, because you take an industry where productivity is flat and you might say, okay, well, prices are going to be flat. But no, because all the other industries are improving in productivity, and the education industry, they have to attract labor from those industries which are getting better, right? So they still have to pay me as much as I would earn, you know, in another industry, but my productivity hasn't gone up, you know? So that means prices have to go up. So that's the basic Baumol effect, is that industries, especially services where productivity is not going up, prices have to go up.
We have the chart here, and I imagine that there are a few logical pushbacks. One is regulation. Everyone will say that the number of licenses to practice medicine is restricted. It's a taxi cab medallion system. It's a regulatory capture situation. Does that not play into this chart as much as people think? Is that to be disregarded, or is over-regulation still something worth contending with if you want to avoid runaway inflation or just disproportionate inflation in important services that people have demand for, but are maybe paying through the nose for and not happy about?
Right. Yeah, look, I'm a free market guy, you know, I'm anti-regulation, anti-bureaucracy, all that kind of stuff. But you have to understand, with these trends, we're talking about increases in prices which have happened over 100 years. Right.
Sure. Yeah.
And, you know, medical care, people were complaining about medical care going up in price in like 1920, 1930. This is before, you know, Medicaid, Medicare, before a lot of government involvement. Education has been going up in price. So I think it's deeper than just regulation. And let me give you just one other example, is think about car repair, okay? You know, or cobblers. When was the last time you took your shoes to a cobbler? Right? You know, my mother will say, oh, the new generation, they just don't care about repairing things, you know. And I'd say, no, Mom, I love you. But look, it's that the cost of repair has just gone up so much compared to just the cost of buying a new pair of shoes.
Yeah, how would you like? How would you like to, you know, spend $70 to fix your $60 pair of shoes?
Exactly. So, you know, I had my car had some. I bashed it in the parking lot, you know, and it was like not a serious, you know, just a surface injury, but it was like a third the price of the car, the value of the car, just to repair the side, you know, and that's pretty typical. Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of people in the AI world are saying that AI will do to services what technology has done previously to manufactured products. Does that mean that the Baumol effect goes away? Is it more pronounced in the industries that are AI resistant, and you see some sort of runaway inflation in the things that can't be automated? Because when I think about teaching a college course, I do see the sort of maybe linear scaling that you're discussing, but we have microphones now. We have amphitheaters. You can teach more students. There's online resources. There's ways to delegate and manage teams of homework reviewers and sort of disaggregate the work. And so you would imagine that technology would be a lever on services in some ways, but I'm wondering how you think it will change in the age of AI.
Yeah, so the big question is robots, right? If you can replace labor with capital, then a lot of the Baumol effect goes away, which would be great. I mean, that would be great. Basically, you know, anything that improves productivity is good. But I think people also get a little bit too upset about the Baumol effect because really, another way of putting it is, why are services getting more expensive? It's because manufactured goods are getting cheaper, right? Yeah. It's because what we have to pay for the services in terms of giving up other goods has gone up in price. But still, we're richer than ever before, which is why people keep buying more education and more healthcare, right? So that's another reason why I don't buy entirely the regulation story.
Yeah.
Because if it was sort of regulation and the price of healthcare was going up, people would buy less of it.
Yeah.
But actually, they're buying more of it.
Yeah.
So it's the fact that, our productivity is going up, we can afford more of it. That's really why the price of medical care is going up. It's because the price of computers and other things is going down.
Yeah. How are you processing the latest and greatest in behavioral economics around maybe this concept of the vibe session, this idea that, yes, we are richer than we have been in history, and yet, right now, consumer confidence is very low. There seems to be a lot of dissatisfaction with the progress that the economy is making. How much of that is grounded in real economic data versus psychological factors?
I'm amazed at the amount of psychological factors. It's something I've changed my mind on, how big the psychological factors can be.
Yeah.
If you just look around the world today, no other country has done as well from globalization as the United States. It was us which kept open the sea lanes and globalized the world to our benefit. And we're the richest country in the history of the world, the richest at any point in our history. And yet somehow we're upset about free trade and globalization. And again, no other country has done as well at assimilating immigrants and doing well with immigrants than the United States. And yet we're upset about immigrants.
Yeah.
So I think it's very disappointing. I hope we get over the bad vibes, because the U.S. has a lot to be proud of, and a lot to feel good about.
Yeah. Is one of those psychological factors, the average American's perception of debt to GDP? We seem to anchor debt, like nominal values of debt to GDP, which is a sort of an income stream, and we get very irritated or anxious when debt sort of touches GDP and relative values. How are you thinking about the level of indebtedness that is appropriate for a modern economy to sustain itself?
I'm not happy about the debt. We still don't know. The U.S. has a big choice. Do they want higher taxes or do they want less spending? And the U.S. voter just keeps saying, how about neither? Sorry, this is not working, right?
Yeah.
Have your cake and eat it too. No, you cannot do that. So the American public has just not decided which way it wants to go.
Yeah.
Whether that is what is driving the malaise, I don't know. I'm not sure. See, I don't know whether it's cell phones. I don't know whether it's Instagram. But it does seem that there is an anger, a grievance culture in the United States. At first, I thought it was just on the left, right? When we had everyone is complaining, oh, African Americans are treated so poorly, the women are treated so poorly, the poor are treated so poorly, and then with Trump, we've just changed our set of grievances, and so now, it's the foreigners who are ripping us off. Crime is terrible, and of course it's not. All of these things. We've just changed our set of grievances without actually focusing on.
Is that not? How much does the fact that so many people are downwardly mobile? I mean, I was born in the '90s, and I remember as a probably an early teenager hearing statistically this is the first generation where you're more likely to do less well economically than your parents did, and I feel like part of the challenge with that is that America's culture is so progress oriented, right? Like the American dream is just centered around doing more, doing better. If your father was a cobbler, like you own a shoe store, that kind of thing, and so now when you have, still this like massive wealth and as you said, the richest country in history, there's this constant comparison to the past, and I think frustration from that, which is making like, huge swaths of the country frustrated, and you want to blame it on like you said, foreigners or free trade, et cetera. But it's just like this sort of latent frustration.
Yeah, there's definitely frustration. I agree with that. Compared to the past, we are doing better.
Yeah.
There's no question of that. Now, to be sure, there are some key areas like housing, right? Housing is much more expensive, than it should be. That's a zoning problem. That's a choice people have been making. I think a bad choice. I think we ought to do something about it. But even with housing, houses are so much better today. They're larger. Kids have their own rooms.
Air conditioning, parking.
Yeah, and in 1960,
enclosed parking structures.
A large fraction of the housing stock in 1960 didn't have indoor toilet, didn't have indoor plumbing.
Yeah.
Right, that was still pretty common not to have indoor plumbing. So I don't think it's compared. I think if people are saying that we are worse off in the past, I think that's incorrect. Maybe what's going on is that inequality has gone up somewhat, not as much as people often think, but it has gone up somewhat. And of course, we have more access to seeing inequality. It's Instagram and stuff like that, which is sort of a fake. The
Lamborghini might be rented.
Right.
No, I completely agree.
People.
Yeah. The other factor is that the forms of entertainment that are constantly being chosen today, like doom scrolling, right? When you maybe had the hippie generation, it was like, hey, we don't have jobs. Let's go to Yosemite and just live there, right?
Surf,
and like what that would do to your sense of well-being versus like, I don't have a job, I'm going to sit on my phone all day long.
Yeah.
Right? Or last week
nobody really hitchhikes across America when they're in between gigs anymore. What happened? Yeah,
but like just I don't have anything going on. I don't have opportunity. I'm going to go outside. I'm going to touch grass. It's like going to have a wildly different impact on your psyche.
I know a super successful corporate lawyer today that like was in the middle of a career transition, spent a year like surfing in South America, and like that is unheard of by today's standards. Like that just doesn't happen. Sorry, did you have?
No.
I have also been thinking about like if there was an alien that showed up and had $1 quadrillion, like if you include that alien in the Gini coefficient, it skyrockets it. But the existence of that alien doesn't affect your perception until you're made aware of the diamond spaceship that the alien comes to town with and starts flexing on you on Instagram. But the mere existence doesn't change your economic well-being or anything real, but it does change your psychology once you see them flexing on you. I'm interested in the housing thing, though. I want to go back to Baumol effect because housing seems to potentially fall in the middle. Like there's manufactured goods that go into building a house. There are also services that go into a house. Like how do we apply the thinking of the Baumol effect and what you've learned to what would happen to housing? Like is there a second step? Everyone, when they talk about housing, will say, let's fix the zoning rules, let's make it easier to build. But is that enough?
Yeah, I mean, look, with housing, it's not the construction of housing which has gotten so much more, expensive. It's almost 100% the land.
Okay.
The cost of the land.
Yeah.
So, and you look, I mean, you just go to, San Francisco, San Jose, which ought to be, right, some glorious metropolis, of the future with, sky-high buildings and people traveling around in, fantastic.
Yeah, it should
Ubers
look
in the
like a
sky.
Chinese city where there's LED
Right.
walls, and yeah, we have that on Salesforce Tower, but outside of that, there aren't these massive skyscrapers, and it just doesn't
Exactly.
happen.
It's a land of strip malls.
Yeah.
You know, Silicon Valley is a land of strip malls.
It really is.
And strip malls are just extremely expensive. They're just lying on
Yeah.
this very valuable land, and there people are not allowed to build.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful of something like California Forever, where they're trying to get permission to start a new city. I'm hopeful for things of that nature, but none of this. This is all policy. All of this is under our control.
Yeah.
In some sense, this is not like we haven't been hit by a tornado and we're all poor and have no housing. It's because we've said no, you cannot build.
Yeah, I've been thinking about the push into cities, which makes so much sense in the sense that the economic opportunity is in the cities, and so we've seen successful college graduates leave their hometowns, go to San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, Miami, Austin, these mega hubs that have been very expensive if they aren't building. But I was really optimistic that between remote work, self-driving cars, like faster highways, like we would get just an extension, because I think as you look through history, the 45-minute commute is sort of a sweet spot. Before the horse and carriage, people would live a couple miles because that's what they could walk in 45 minutes. We got the horse and carriage. Once we went to 60 miles an hour, it became, okay, you live 30 miles away from your workplace. But I was hoping that we would get another leg up on that, and maybe it's coming, but we certainly haven't seen it yet. Have you been surprised by any of the fallout or lack thereof of the COVID era, the shift to remote work, any changes, technology or otherwise, in just the housing and labor markets?
Yeah, I agree with you. I've been a little bit surprised that we haven't seen another city really take off. I mean, we used to build new cities, right? Chicago, not that long ago was a city of 50,000 people. Yeah. And Trump briefly talked about freedom cities for a while, which I thought was a good idea, but it's sort of gone away. Okay. It does tell you that there's something very strong about these so-called agglomeration, the technical term in economics, agglomeration effects, that people just get more productive when they are near other productive people. Yeah. And you really need this big push to try and get this into the new city. I mean, Miami briefly, seemed to be jumping ahead, but that trend seemed to have gone away. Yeah. Las Vegas, tried it with Zappos, but that, modestly only took off modestly. I am somewhat surprised that we can't plant our flag and say the new city is going to be here and have a lot of companies all agree to move in at once.
Yeah, I've heard it referred to as like the rainforest theory, that why San Francisco is so resilient, because you have so many different participants, and the VCs can go to Miami, but they're just a phone call away, while so many other key pieces of the economy are still chugging along. And so San Francisco clearly made it through a trough and is on a major upswing. Jordy?
What data are you most obsessed with following to try to understand the current moment? We see AI in the GDP data primarily through CapEx right now, but what kind of productivity data are you looking at? We've been very excited about what we've seen from Stripe. They have this incorporation product, and they're seeing companies, more companies formed, growing revenue faster. That's very exciting, but it's also like a certain type of person finds himself incorporating, their business with Stripe, and is not perfectly a reflection of the economy more broadly. So what are you looking at to try to understand the impact and try to ignore maybe the headlines from CEOs that say, oh, well, we laid off this 20% of people because of AI, because, as we know, oftentimes it's marketing.
Yeah, it's very interesting. There's a lot of theories, about is this going to be a job apocalypse or something like that. Not much data. And of course, all of the data we have so far is that AI is increasing the number of jobs, not decreasing the number of jobs. What I'm most excited about and most interested in seeing is the effect of AI on medical care. So, we just saw yesterday that AI had, well, you just had it on your on your show, had proved a new mathematical a theorem or a counter proof. So AI is making these inroads into the highest levels of mathematics. If we could do that for drug discovery, if we could have a 5% reduction in cancer mortality, that would be worth trillions. That would be worth trillions. So the opportunities there for AI to make tremendous leaps in human welfare by improving medical care, healthcare, I think are really exciting and well within the realm of possibility. One new drug like solving an air dose problem, that would be incredible.
And what does that mean in the labor market? I'm thinking back to there was a time when there was sort of only one track for doctors. He was just like a generic doctor. Now there's much more specialization. There's a dermatologist, a podiatrist, all sorts of different doctors. Is this like there's a fracturing and further employment creation from the administration, distribution, advisory around new treatments as it rolls out? Because you could imagine, okay, there's a new drug. That's great. That helps everyone live longer. But I'm unclear on how it interfaces with the labor market.
Yeah, I mean, I think the trend is division of increases in the division of labor. Which Adam Smith talked about from the pin factory. Yeah. And when you apply that idea of the pin factory, somebody shapes the pin, somebody puts it on, and that's how you get increases in price. When you apply that to the knowledge economy, then it's exactly as you said. You no longer have a physician. You have a podiatrist, and you have an optometrist, and you have an ear, nose, and throat specialist, and so forth, And yeah, I think that will continue, and they will all be using AI for sure, right? But yeah, they're going to get more specialized, and the tasks which physicians do will change. So far, I'm not terribly worried about the job market per se. Yeah. Look, this is a problem of people are worried about the AI is going to do all the jobs, right? Like this means we're going to be fabulously wealthy, and even without any jobs, just being fabulously wealthy, we'll figure things out. This is the sort of problem you want to have, right? Yeah. Again, this is not like a tornado, a hurricane, a tsunami, which destroys wealth. Yeah. This is a tsunami which creates wealth. And yes, it could be a tsunami in the sense that it's going to be very dramatic, okay? But it's going to be very dramatic, like Santa Claus coming and leaving us goods, under the Christmas tree. So that's drama that we can handle. It won't be it won't be without problem, okay? But problems where the pie gets bigger are problems that we can solve. It's problems when the pie gets smaller, when we are forced into a zero-sum society of one person versus another. That's when society breaks down, not when the pie is getting bigger. Like, we'll figure out ways to make sure everyone gets a decent slice. If the pie is getting so much bigger, we can solve the problem of dividing it up with everybody being happy. I'm much less worried about that.
How do you think about value capture with this technology wave versus historical technologies? If you get really good at inventing engines, you can sell a lot of those engines and hopefully have a nice margin, and maybe other people copy the engine and also make similar engines and benefit from that. But we're at a moment right now where frontier intelligence is like very widely available, right? There's certain internal models that aren't with the public yet, and if you have one of those Erdos, moments in medicine, it could just be an off-the-shelf model that helps make a breakthrough, and you pay for the tokens or you pay your subscription. But then, right now, the labs are not really set up well to capture that value at all. It could be, it could be a big company that captures the value. It could be another startup. There's small businesses. And so how are you thinking about value capture versus like public benefit of this technology cycle, and how it would differ to prior technologies, let's say like the internet and telecom and all the way back to railroads and the steam engine, et cetera?
Yeah, it's a very interesting technology because this will sound odd, but it doesn't seem that hard. But, the fundamentals is, it's linear algebra. It's very surprising.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone predicted this. But, and it's true, of course, that the frontier models are ahead. OpenAI and Anthropic, have the best models. But they're like 6 months ahead, of open source models. And for most of what you want the models to do, you don't even need the frontier models. And what today is a frontier model, like tomorrow, it'll be much cheaper second rate model, right? Like people are worried, some people have access to, 5.5 and other people are still working with 5.4, right? Well, the big point is that even 5.4, the free model, is 100 times better than 3.0, right? Yeah. Which was also incredible. So the models seem to be getting more powerful and cheaper at a faster rate than any other technology that I have ever seen. Mm-hmm. So I think the gains will be fairly widespread, if not at first, then soon afterwards. I mean, some people are obviously OpenAI and Anthropic, the people who got in early and the programmers there, they're going to be fabulously wealthy. No question about that. But the technology itself, so much of it is open source. So much of it is really quite accessible. There's no magic there as far as I can see. Like, it was just, you had a few good ideas, and then those ideas just turned out to be incredibly powerful. So I'm expecting to see really the technology being quite widespread.
Yeah.
No? I know we're out of time, but one last question. How do you think about part of the reason I think we feel this insane acceleration with this technology shift, maybe, more so than certainly mobile, but, looking back to the internet, and everyone in this moment wants to figure out, okay, are we in 98? Are we in 99? Are we in early 2000? Trying to figure out the moment that we're in. And it feels like because we have the internet today, like there's this like compression in the technology cycle, because ideas get distributed faster, products get distributed faster. If there's a breakthrough, it's instantly everywhere. There's instantly, hundreds or thousands of companies working on, improving it, furthering it. And so I find it hard to try to think about where we are, because it felt like in Q4 of last year we actually did have a correction. Like we were joking like, great, the bubble popped, because like there was maybe too much excitement around chatbots, and there was somewhat of a correction, and then we got agents that really worked, and then it feels like in some ways we're in a new cycle now, and so I'm curious if you have any sort of frameworks or thinking around that, like compression in progress that we're getting because we're building on top of all these other technology cycles for this new one.
Absolutely. And of course, the AIs themselves are starting to improve the AIs, right? So some people worry that precisely because of that, we'll get a sort of a FOOM scenario under which one day everything is fine, and the next day, you have a God in the laboratory, right? I'm not too worried about that, but it's not insane. It's not insane. Yeah, so far, my view is that I trust the technologists when they say that the technology is going to keep getting better quite rapidly. Where I think the technologists are not quite right is that it's going to take much longer than they think for this to start affecting, jobs and the economy writ large and things of that nature. That'll be slower. So the economists generally are on the slow side in terms of it's going to take time to adapt to this technology. I mean, we saw like with electricity, for example. Electricity was another, incredible technology, but it took time. It took time to adapt to that, even when the frontier, was very far ahead. But for that to work its way in the economy and for people to figure out how they're going to change their production structures, that took time. And I think it will take time here as well. But as far as I can see, the technology is going to keep getting better, which it does give one pause. And I will say, never in my life have I felt that the window of what is possible is as large as it is today, both on the possibilities for superintelligence, huge gains, the boomers, and also on the doomer side. I don't discount those entirely. My view is more in the middle, but those two sides, they're not insane. So we do have to do a lot of thinking.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come chat with
fun.
us. We'd love to have you back on the show soon. It was long overdue. But
Yeah,
have a
thanks
great
for the time, Alex.
rest of your week. Have a great weekend, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
too.
Talk soon.
Goodbye.
All right.
GMU economists, always so much fun to talk to. Well, our next guest is Bill from Convective Capital here with a new fund. Get that gong ready. Let's bring in Bill from Convective Capital into the TBPN Help Show. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Kick us off with the news. What happened today?
Yeah, so we raised a new fund, $85 million. There it is.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's up 2x from our last fund, and we're focused on disaster resilience. The thesis of the fund is that the world's getting warmer, our infrastructure is getting older, and that's literally a recipe for disaster. And so as disasters rise and volatility rises in the world, there's got to be private markets that can respond and that can build solutions and services and technology to stop that. And so we back founders that are building those things.
Give us an overview of the fire. Give us a fire market map. What's exciting in fire? It's top of mind right now. There's a fire burning in LA / I think Ventura County, and so my house has been very smoky around my house. Yeah, I want to know. This feels like a particularly brutal industry because there's these like insane spikes of interest, and then people just kind of forget about.
Are you
fire.
thinking Watch Duty for-profit conversion?
Yes,
It's got to happen.
Yes, lead a Series A and Watch Duty, please.
Lever it up.
Yeah, John watched it. He's a good friend, and we started. I started my company around the same time he started that, and he will never take that for profit. He's dyed in the wool.
It's such a good app.
Mission first.
So important. But yes,
and it's actually become the standard, not just for people that care about their homes, but also people in the fire service use it. It's an amazing example of how technology can address this problem. So I guess to get to your question around market map. We think about a lot of like who is the end buyer, because that's actually what's kept people out of this space historically. VCs typically don't get excited about companies that sell to utilities or insurance companies or government agencies. And our thesis is that is in the middle of a really big change. That, if you see like PG&E went bankrupt a couple of years ago, the insurance companies have had to leave California and some of these really large markets, and that's changing behavior. You lose $70 billion of market capitalization, and you respond and you do something about it, and you act differently. And so, we think a lot about the market in terms of who's going to buy these technologies. And we've had a lot of success investing in startups that sell to utilities like Overstory, which uses satellite imagery to help utilities trim trees around power lines. We just invested in Fund 2 in a company called Volt Air, which does autonomous drone power line inspections. So, utilities cause about 11% of fire ignitions, but about 60% of the acres burned. And so if you can actually help reduce utility ignitions, that's like a huge leverage point.
Interesting. What's going on disaster prevention in like more of the consumer prosumer space? I saw a house for sale over in Malibu, and it was by some actor, and he had installed like fire shutters and like all this different equipment. He was like living off grid, and this was like his getaway. And it feels like I saw after the LA fires, like the autonomous water sprinkler that would be bolted to the top of the house. I think a lot of homeowners in Los Angeles, at least, were like, "Oh, I want one of those," and they would have clicked the button to buy it if they'd seen an ad that day. But then a year goes by and nothing happens in the next fire season, and they think, maybe not. But it does feel like there's some fertile ground in the consumer space. But is that more challenging than people might think it is in reality?
I think you're totally right. Like, consumer demand goes in spikes. It's a very seasonal, volatile business. I just saw today Watch Duty is the #2 downloaded app on the App Store today, and that probably was not the case a couple weeks ago. So it's certainly, that's the nature of the beast here. In terms of home hardening and things you can do to protect your home, I think that also kind of goes in waves, to your point. But to me, the real unlock is going to be when insurance companies create incentives for people to actually install these things around their home. So we're investors in a company called Stand. They help model homes. They use computational fluid dynamics to simulate wildfires moving through the property. They come up with a list of recommendations for the homeowner of what they should do with shutters and windows and remove certain vegetation. They remodel it, and then they can actually provide discounts on insurance. I think that's going to be the real unlock that drives, at scale consumer behavior.
Yeah, it has to be a real time, like you're renewing your home insurance, and they're like, if you do spend, in California, it could be like, spend $10,000 on this new system, and if you do that, we'll give you a $10,000 reduction this year, and further discounts in the future, so that you end up, effectively, saving real money.
Yeah, exactly. I think historically insurance companies have not done that, but that's the key to protecting homes in this kind of new era, and it's got to happen. The California Fair Plan, which is like the state-backed insurer of last resort, just announced that they're going to raise rates 30% this year after the LA fires. And so if we don't actually reduce the probability of homes burning, housing and insurance is just going to become unaffordable.
How are you thinking about selling to the government, maybe in California or elsewhere? Anduril has this interesting story where they built a firefighting tank. They were trying to sell it to California firefighters, but there was pushback around job displacement, even though it was ideally a new capability that would actually have support staff and not really take anyone's job, because no firefighter can sit in the middle of a blaze like this particular firefighting tank could. But it was still became a political issue and ultimately did not become a real product. Is there movement there? How are companies positioning themselves as additive? When I think about drone review of power lines, there's probably someone that went up there earlier. Cost savings is good. Doing more with less is great, but also there's always that pushback around job displacement.
Yeah, I think there's kind of two issues at play here. First is is there actually job displacement? I think the reality is no. I mean, it's just we are so under-resourced relative to the scale of these disasters. They're happening 3 times more frequently with huge severity. CAL FIRE is the largest and best resourced firefighting agency in the world, bar none. That's not going to change. And I think it's really about how do we get leverage out of those investments. I do think, though, you're pointing out a cultural issue, though, and that's something that we've really worked at trying to bridge. I think it can be really harmful if a bunch of guys in Palo Alto sipping lattes walk out to the fire line and try to tell people how to do their jobs. Sure. There's just this huge disconnect. And so one of the things that we built is this conference called the Red Sky Summit, where we actually get 600 fire chiefs and other emergency managers together every year in San Francisco. Cool. And we kind of create like an off-the-record venue for them to talk to people that are building stuff in technology. And it kind of creates this great sharing back and forth where, you can show the value of this technology. You can have these two-way conversations. It sort of changes the tenor. And that's been a real unlock. We've seen a lot of buying behavior come out of that event. I think things like Watch Duty that show how impactful technology can be, the firefighters see that. Yeah. And, I think the tide and the cultural tide is really changing. And so it's an exciting time to be building in this space.
Yeah. Is there any relevance? Like we talked to some other sector specific funds or thematic funds. And the classic example is like in CPG, they can be a harder business sometimes, but there's a number of like clear acquirers for mid-scale companies, like a Unilever or Coca-Cola will take out a lot of these companies at a unicorn valuation, and so it sort of changes the underwriting. It's worked for a lot of funds in that category. Is there a 800-pound gorilla in this category that's maybe not being disrupted, but maybe can be a partner at some point in time, or is the thinking like everything is IPO, it needs to be a standalone business or bust, or is anything different financially about these businesses that you see?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't look at wildfire as like a market in and of itself. It's this sort of dynamic that touches these huge markets like energy, insurance, housing, real estate, forestry, government and emergency response. Sure. And in each one of those categories, there are really large companies. There are, contractors in the utility space or providers in all of those markets. So I think there's certainly exit paths, but the economics here are just like immense. The Bloomberg just published a report. Disasters cost the U.S. economy $1 trillion a year. That's like on par with what we pay for interest on the national debt or defense. And so it's like, there are really big public companies that will be built, solving that, because that cost falls on these really large, deep-pocketed institutions, and we think that there's just very big businesses to be built.
Yeah.
Is there opportunities for wearables for firefighters? I was once the Sandy fire started here in LA. I was showing my son some videos on like wildland firefighters, and I was shocked that a lot of them just like weren't wearing gear. They'll wear something like a piece of fabric over their face. Seems like there's probably opportunities there and potentially a decent size market.
Yeah, I mean, it's a travesty what we equip our firefighters with and send them out there. I mean, it's like, the health impacts of wildland fire smoke are just terrible. I mean, and there's really not a practical way currently to help filter that air for these wildland firefighters. So they're out there, really with no masks, sleeping in smoke days at a time, carrying packs. It's 110, 120 degrees. They're working hard with chainsaws and axes. I mean, it's a really dangerous, really grueling job. And I think, part of the original thesis for Convective was I was actually volunteering with my local fire department up in Mendocino County. And, I just was watching this and I'm like, I can't believe we're doing this with, trucks from the 1970s and, axes. And like, that's the state of the art. And so there's a huge opportunity there. And I think, and you can look at, wildland fire as a market, and it's a certain size, but it's also a path into all types of field service jobs and all types of worker safety. And so we've looked at a lot of companies there. We haven't made any investments yet, but that's a category we're really interested in.
We jump straight into discussion of the fund, the strategy. Can you take us back a little bit to what you were doing before? Why start this fund, when you started it, sort of the prehistory of the fund?
Yeah, so I was a founder. I started a company called WePay back in 2008. It was an early fintech company, and we built that up over about 12 years and sold it to JP Morgan.
Where was that headquartered?
Overnight success.
Yeah, I wish. It was headquartered in Palo Alto.
Palo Alto, okay. I just remember running into it in Boston. I think in like 2012 or something. That was around the time. I was probably
we actually started it in Boston.
Okay,
yeah,
that's
we started
right.
in Boston.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, got it. Cool.
We started in Boston. We were funded by Y Combinator, moved to the West Coast.
That's right.
Built that up over about 12 years, and then we sold to JP Morgan.
Yeah.
I left JP Morgan, and I think one of the things that really suited us well at WePay was we were early to like the financial technology market. People called it like banking technology at the time. And a lot of the same skepticism that I hear around utilities and government, we heard, we were trying to raise money from Boston VCs in 2008. And, they were wrong. I mean, the fintech market was like the most exciting sector of technology over the next 10 years. And, so as I was leaving JP Morgan, I wanted to work on something that was, a market that was early and that we could be sort of one of a kind, that we could be a market leader in, and that also had an important mission where we were helping people and doing good for the world. And this sort of lined up all of those things. My wife and I own a ranch up in Mendocino County, a couple hours north of San Francisco, and a fire almost burned under the property. And all the dots started to connect, and here I am.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's sort of like the VC version of like build something you use yourself, like the YC ethos, make something people want. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and breaking it down for us. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm really glad you're doing this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We need more.
Thanks, guys. Love
Have
what
a
you're
great rest of your day.
Great
We'll talk to you soon.
Cheers, Bill.
Goodbye. Up next, we have the co-CEO of Spotify joining, Alex Nordstrom.
On a huge
calling
day.
in from Spotify Investor Day. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
What's going on?
Thank you. Hey, John and Jordy. It's good to be here.
Great to have you.
Fantastic.
First time on the show, why don't you kick us off with the news today? What's new in Spotify's world?
Yeah, we just had a fantastic Investor Day 2026. We talked about what we've delivered in the past 4 years, which put us in a really great position in terms of user growth and financial metrics. We also laid out our 4 big ideas for the future. And then we also talked a little bit about how we can further monetize Spotify and grow all the sort of financial metrics and goals of the company. I want to send my greetings from Gustav Söderström, who was also on your show a little while ago.
Yeah. We talked to him at South by Southwest. It was a great conversation. We're very excited to have you here. Where should we start? I want to jump into.
I love big ideas.
Yeah, I mean,
let's start there.
There's so many different things. Maybe we should start with the reserve ticket access, because I saw that organically promoted to me, and it seems so logical. And I'm fascinated by the rollout, the strategy, and also why did it take so long? Has this been in the chamber for a long time? What has been the plan? What has been the go-to-market with this particular product?
Great question. So I've been with Spotify for, I think it's now almost 16 years.
Yeah.
And this is
Overnight
by far
success.
one of the most one of the most lovely improvements to Spotify Premium that we've done, I guess, since the founding, really.
Yeah.
So you're right. It's long overdue. It's a great one. And the reason why it's so great, it's really that it solves a couple of different problems. One is, who hasn't been sitting there in front of a website trying to get tickets for a concert? Like, it's very hard.
Yeah.
And if you get it, it's going to cost you a lot, right? And the second thing is, even if you get tickets, it may not be to the artist that you actually listen to and love.
Yeah.
Right. So this solves that. So what we're launching is basically we're giving you, we're holding tickets for you for a certain time window for you to just go and pay and collect with our partners. So it really solves the problem in a unique way, because we're matching the tickets and the concerts and the participating artists and tours with the users on our platform that are actually the true fans of this.
Yeah.
And we look at it from many standpoints, like not just the number of streams that you're doing, so you can't just grind yourself there. It's also
I imagine
catalog engagement and so on. Yeah, so it's terrific. This is a fantastic improvement in Spotify Premium.
Yeah, I have a new problem, which will be ticket scalpers setting up, infinite
paying
Spotify
the monthly
accounts
subscription fee for
just
years,
to try to run algorithms. No, but I think it's absolutely brilliant. Solves a problem. Even from the artists, like, being in this position where you're trying to make your ticket prices affordable for your fans, but due to market dynamics, no matter where you price it, they'll go way up, and then the only beneficiary in that transaction is the person that's just buying the tickets to resell, and everyone else loses. So I think
you're totally right. I mean, this like many things that we do at Spotify, we look at what organically happens on the platform and what we do. And then when we see that there is some sort of signal or trend that actually just come by way of organic behavior on the platform, then we double down on it. So we've done many events, with artists and groups and bands and so on over the years. And on a yearly basis, you probably do 150 to 200 events. And the magic really happens when we look at who to invite to those events. And if we can really strike the balance of getting enough people there that are really sort of on a very, very high engagement level with that artist, not only just listening to the artist, but doing it maybe on a daily basis, having listened to the whole catalog and do it for at least an hour per day or something like that. It really gives the artist also like a magical experience of facing your truest fans. And this is something that uniquely we can do for artists.
Yeah. AI is obviously at the top of everyone's mind. The large taste model is the latest technology from Spotify in the AI world, but I feel like you have to have been embedding every song into some sort of machine learning model for probably over a decade. Can you take me through a little bit of the history of machine learning or AI at Spotify, and then what has actually changed? Like, where are you seeing a break in the graph? Like, where are you seeing, okay, we're experiencing some sort of discontinuity in the progress we were making?
Yeah, so you're right. It was actually just about a decade ago when Daniel and Gustav and I started investing into AI. Then was called machine learning. Yeah. Right, and it was very basic, the algos then. Like, it was almost like, okay, similar to what you do on Amazon. John listened to this. He's similar to Jordi, also listened to this other thing, therefore he should listen to that too. Yeah. So lookalike algorithm, if you will.
Yeah, collaborative filtering, probably based on text, not actually looking at the waveform even.
Exactly like that, yeah. Yep. And so now many, many years later, having continued to invest in that, and just the data, not just the data, but the learnings we have and the feedback loops we've had over the years, it's been compounding. So, and now, you're asking me what changed lately. Well, obviously, what changed is that we've got access to large language models like general intelligence that we can use to reason over the data that we have. Yeah. But what it comes down to really is the unique data at scale here, right? So we log probably between I think it's 3 and 4 trillion events that happen per day on Spotify. So we really get billions of signals that are relevant to feed it, to feed the algorithm with. And then the second thing that happened is obviously because we started to sort of understand English. Algorithms started to understand English. So we sort of started importing a lot of knowledge from the outside world onto Spotify. Yeah.
I've noticed that the search bar has gotten so much better at detecting lyrics. Like, I used to have to go and Google or search a lyric and then go to Spotify, and now I can just type it right in and I get it. I'm like, this is an amazing experience. I'm interested in your build versus buy versus fine tune an open source model. What's working? What's interesting? Music is, obviously you're benefiting from transformer architectures, from all the open source work, but I imagine that a lot of the tasks that you're doing aren't exactly, okay, just fine tune like a text-based open source model. You might need to go a layer deeper. You might need to partner with someone. How have you been thinking about the way to deploy AI?
Yeah, we certainly believe in general intelligence, and we've been riding that cost curve that's going to come down, collapse by 1,000x over the last 4 or 5 years or so. So we believe in this industry commoditizing more and more. So we are going to buy, the best reasoning capabilities that are out there, and then we're going to use that on top of what we call our large taste model, which we are uniquely able to, using proprietary data, to actually build out, much thanks to the stuff that I was talking to. The other side of the equation here that is important, I think, is also that we get a lot of feedback and data from artists as well via our Spotify for Artists application, which feeds us with data that's also proprietary and unique. Which is great. So you ask about build and buy and so on. I think it's a great question. If we see opportunities to actually build something to help, bootstrap or add a capability, we will do it. And I'll draw 2 examples that are quite good. I think 3 years ago we bought Sonantic, which really helped us create AI DJ.
Okay.
And
DJX.
It really accelerated the build out of AI DJ, and now AI DJ is all over the world, and we have it in different languages, and people are using it at scale. So that was a great, I think, transaction that we made. Another one that is also it's more recent actually. It was just before the end of last year. We bought Who Sampled, which provided us not with so much a capability, but a unique set of data. So I don't know if you've used Song DNA lately. it's been killing it. I think 50 to 60 million people are using it already. You can listen to a song and then you can check like which were the samples in that song.
Oh, interesting.
And then you can also like follow the
Go
threads
back
down
to
to
the
like,
lineage.
okay, what's the original? You can listen to the original track and then hear how they sort of flip that into the new one.
That's
and you can
really
see
cool.
who was in there, the studio technicians, the artists, the composers, and so on.
Yeah.
And a lot of this we couldn't have done, or it would have taken us much longer time without who sampled.
Yeah. Structurally, how is AI changing the work that Spotify employees are doing? Matthew Prince from Cloudflare was talking about this concept of you have builders and sellers, but just the raw measurement, that's less important as a discipline. And so he's pushing more of his staff to build new things and then go and sell it. Do you have a framework for thinking about how your employees should be using AI in the future?
Yeah, I mean, we, a couple of years ago, I think we went through the ChatGPT moment.
Yeah.
And just before the holidays of last year, we had a similar moment around coding tools.
Yep.
And we all sort of got enamored with it and started adopting it. But at Spotify, the engineering and development, teams have just done a crazy good job adopting it.
Yeah.
So we now have, I think, close to 99% adoption across Spotify.
Yeah.
And this goes, beyond the engineering team, but also into the marketing team that are using it not just for design, but also for better gaining insight into what type of compelling stories to tell on top of the story. So we do have very many different use cases, and people are crazy about just creating prototypes now all around Spotify, just test things in a way faster way. So what you get basically is a lot of like productivity gains. And I know for a fact, one of my dear colleagues, the chief architect of Spotify NGN, he was just at Anthropic and he was doing a presentation for their staff. And I hear from Anthropic that we are actually one of the leading developers out there in adopting AI and using it to gain productivity improvements.
Yeah. Have you thought about I don't know if there is a trade-off, you might be doing both, but there's a world where you have some sort of engineering pod and there's an opportunity to have more members of that team pushing code, shifting to individual contributor roles, but of course they're managing agents, so it's also a managerial role, versus embedding more technically minded folks across different organizations. So you have more cross-functional teams, a marketing team gets an engineer who can oversee agents. How are you thinking about just spreading different AI tool use across different organizations that might not previously have been in a position to build a piece of software? Maybe they're in the market to buy a couple SaaS products for whatever their vertical is, but now they have the opportunity to actually build.
Yeah. What you're seeing actually happening organically at Spotify is that as adoption goes up, it's typically you're by your own and you're looking at what's out there, which MCPs to connect to and how that can help your work, and then you're basically sort of copying some other people's skills around at the company, and you're just sort of experiencing how it is to use AI to do your work, your particular field. But what now is more happening is that all of our Slack groups and in our communities, we see people sharing use cases with each other, and the next step really is that, for instance, someone, a product developer and an engineer, sits down with a marketer, starts to understand, hey, okay, the three of us can actually build something of a holistic experience of not just new product and feature, but also tell a compelling story about it, in a much, much more sort of amplified and leveraged way, which I think is fantastic when that happens.
I love it.
We got to talk about fan-made covers and remixes,
Yes.
the new deal with UMG.
Yeah.
Super excited about this personally, and of course it's been.
You got a song you want to cover? You're going to do
very
that. You're finally going
controversial.
to do the Gunna cover you were planning on.
What are you listening to? What's your favorite track right now? Is it a Drake track?
I've been.
No, I think I was expecting Drake to kind of grow up by this point in his career and maybe evolve a bit more. I feel like I grew up maybe faster than Drake. He's still obviously, an incredible superstar. Yeah. But yeah, John was talking about Gunna. I'm a big Gunna fan.
Oh yeah.
But so I'll be making some Gunna covers and remixes. But yeah, talk about this deal. Certainly controversial, but this feels like one of those things that people will have one reaction, and then they'll have the experience.
Yep.
which I'm assuming will be, incredibly magical. And we've had Mikey from Suno on the show. He's a friend of ours, and people fundamentally they say one thing on the internet, but when they use the products, they love them. And so I think it's super exciting. So yeah, talk about this deal. What were the factors that were most important in getting this right, so that fans win, artists win, and everyone involved wins?
Yeah. Certainly, I'm certainly very, very pleased with it. I mean, it's a landmark deal, and it's a landmark deal from the vantage point of we're enabling something that is for the first time a legal product for users and fans to actually create these remixes and covers. And what's more is that it's really the first time, in a controlled and licensed medium that artists get to partake in the AI economy, really. So that is like the core of it. And then if you think a little bit about what it is that we're doing here, well, people love, to your point, like people love remixes and covers, and they've always done that, but there hasn't been any scaled way to really sort of tap into this opportunity. And what we're doing right now with our product is that we're unlocking this market. Where we think actually in the end, it's going to be very additive to both the music industry and ourselves, including artists and songwriters. So it's very cool. We're launching it as a paid add-on, which means that, if you have Spotify Premium, you're eligible to actually buy into this add-on. And when you have the add-on, you can actually go ahead and create remixes and covers. And what's cool with Spotify is that, we're very experienced when it comes to free and premium and, how to convert people and lead people up the ladder. And so what we're going to do is obviously give you a certain, limited usage on premium, so you can actually try it out, play with it, create habits around it, and then commit to buying add-on. But the important point here is that you can think about it as, creation is paid for and consumption is included. So basically, the output that you create around the Ghana, the Ghana remix that you're going to create, I'll be able to listen to it. Everyone will be able to listen to it.
Sure. Yeah. Is there? So I can imagine a world, maybe 6 months from now, where the number one track globally on Spotify is a fan-made remix. Like, may take more time, but it doesn't feel impossible. Do you think this could potentially create a new category of actual artists on Spotify? Would the person that creates a remix ever be able to get, some element of rev share, or is this like entirely going to be more like a live DJ where you're mixing and mashing and putting things together, and maybe you can build up your brand, but you're not getting royalties or any revenue share.
Yeah, I can't speak to the specifics of it, but I can tell you how I think about it. When I started at Spotify together with Gustav 16 years ago, we had roughly, I think it was 2 million tracks in the catalog, and I've lost count, but I think it's in the order of 200 million tracks now, 15, 16 years later. So the catalog being big and growing is a good thing. And the problem you're talking about, a real opportunity, is for us to do recommendations well. And that's always been at the heart of Spotify. If you ask someone, why do you love Spotify? Well, most people say, hey, it's because they seem to know me. So we're able to sort of help you discover by way of personalization, help you kind of find your tracks again that you like and so on. So really this is, what you're talking to is really a personalization problem, right? So when this product creates more catalog, our job is to make sure that the best song gets to the best place.
Last question. Talk about the app icon redesign. I thought it was really cool. I loved it.
We loved it.
But I'm interested in the actual. I mean, I want to know how you processed it internally.
That a disco ball could get people.
People were really talking about it. But my assumption was that it was the Spotify icon is on my home screen, and I click it when I want to listen to music. But it jumped out to me, and I feel like that would show up in the metrics of jarring people awake. But I'm interested to know what actually happened. Are you going to be changing the icon randomly every 5 years? Is it got to be every 20 years? Like, what is the learning from doing something sort of bold?
Right. So about 10 days ago, we decided to change the Spotify app icon or Spotify logo to one that is more of like a glittery disco ball version of the Spotify logo. And to your point, this just sparked a massive conversation around the internet on basically every major social platform. And what a lovely and wonderful piece of culture to have a conversation around the change of our logo and icon, right? So not only users, have been sounding off, but also other big brands. OpenAI made their version, suggested that they would make a version like that. Kit Kat joined in on the fun. So when you have, hundreds of millions of people that passionate about culture and art and Spotify, this is what happens, right? So this sparks like a massive conversation that I think is lively and fun. And to be honest with you, the reason why this is happening, having reflected on it a few days later now, it's pretty intense when it happens because there are two sides, right? And and then there's also all of this like byproduct. The internet coined a new design term around this called discomorphism.
Discomorphism.
Kind of funny.
I love it.
Yeah.
And people have been asking for an answer to flat design. Lots of people have been lamenting how boring things have gotten. You spice it up, and then people, I didn't mean that, which is a very funny way to process it. But sorry, continue.
I mean, the reason why this is happening after having sort of thought about it for a few days and discussed it internally really is because we are truly at the intersection of the humanities and technology.
Sure.
And I think we're in a good place when it comes to that. We're at scale. When hundreds of millions of people, or potentially even billions, are talking about you, then you did something interesting.
I love it. A really, really well executed stunt, and just got everyone talking and reminding. And it's hard to break through with something like a 20-year anniversary with a milestone, but it's important to do something like that. So congratulations.
We did it mostly. Thank you. We did it mostly for ourselves in the beginning, but now it turns out that
music should be fun. Building a company around music should be fun. Like all of this, it's. I know people have their think pieces and their deep dives on contrast ratios and all sorts of things, but at the end of the day, it's fun for a company like Spotify to do something fun with an app icon for a few days.
It is.
I love it.
Also, I pushed back on those people.
Me too.
I thought it looked exactly like a disco ball would look if you were in a dark room.
That's right.
Listening to music
That's
and you look up.
Yeah.
So I thought it was pure to the disco ball brand.
I agree.
That's good. Thank you. Keep it up, man.
Anyway, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hang, Alex.
Great to hang. Congratulations on the progress.
Yeah, congrats to the team on all the new milestones.
We will talk to you soon. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Goodbye. And if you haven't been following, the stock is up 13% today. Spotify is a $103 billion company. Not too shabby. Our next guest, Jordan Schneider from China Talk. You know him. You love him. He's back on the show for the third, fourth, fifth, sixth time. Who knows how many times it's been. We've lost count, but it's been too long, and we're happy to have you here. How you doing?
I'm good. I gotta be honest, was also pretty confused by the Spotify.
You were
disco
confused
ball.
by it.
I thought,
why a big $100 billion company can't have fun in this country?
Yeah.
What's wrong?
I'm just
What's
saying,
wrong?
it took me longer to click it. I thought I had some weird iOS update, Tahoe, whatever.
Yeah, sure. I just think that the fact that you processed it, even if it slowed you down, it put you in the fast thinking, slow thinking. You were in slow thinking mode.
You're not
that builds
addicted
the
to
brand.
your phone enough. You're not addicted to your phone enough.
Are they still rocking it? It's still a disco ball. I like it. I think that they should just keep this thing. It stands out so much from every other app on my phone right now. I love it. Anyway, how are you doing? Maybe let's start with the postmortem on last week. How was the China summit? And then we can just go into everything else.
So boring, man.
I knew you were going to say that. I was like, we're going to talk about everything but China because it was so boring. But
and they let me down. I mean, look, I think there is a clear period of stalemate, which we've gotten into, where the U.S. has some leverage over China, which has been something that really since 2017, Trump won, Trump won, Biden, and then the start of Trump True thought that they could kind of keep turning the temperature up and squeezing on tariffs and export controls and investment restrictions. And then all of a sudden, China, April 2025, punches back with rare earths. And all of a sudden, they realize, they run the experiment and it works. That actually the PRC has real leverage over the U.S. and is able to kind of meaningfully constrain what American presidents want to do when it comes to more coercive actions on China's technological and economic expansion. So both sides have kind of realized that, and what we got is a what was my headline? Prestige on the cheap, where the U.S. where you have the whole cabinet flying over, you have every fancy CEO flying over, just being awed and wowed by their 36-hour vacation to Beijing.
Yeah, it felt like tourism.
Yeah, and look, there's an interesting debate to be had about whether giving them the face and giving them the atmospherics of that is actually kind of and some level costless, and maybe this makes them feel less aggrieved, less likely to start World War III. I mean, this is the argument with Putin, right? It's just we kept disrespecting him, and then he decided, no, I'm going to show you just how tough I am. So I'm not kind of on face opposed to it, but it was kind of just more or nothing.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned every fancy American CEO was there, but were you surprised, or were you expecting, or did it break your expectations that no Sam, no Dario, no Demis, no Sundar, a sort of lack of AI representation? Yes, you have Elon, and yes, you have Jensen, very important figures in the American AI build out, but no true lab leaders from my, rough estimate, if I define it a certain way. And it felt like, okay, maybe this discussion should be about AI, and they're not even bringing the people to let them get a word in edgewise. Not even a single line of conversation will happen. Was that as expected, or how'd you process that?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because this is framed as a trade delegation, almost,
sure,
right? And so almost all of those companies, Meta excluded. I mean, I guess they had a person there,
but Zuck wasn't there. Yeah.
Yeah, but that person's a Trump 1 person. It's kind of just keeping with the vibes. And I guess Meta builds glasses in China.
And they acquire AI agent companies. Manus, they are a buyer of Chinese companies, or formerly Chinese companies that have moved to Singapore,
which they're now not allowed to do. So yeah, they had some lobbying to do, I guess. But the asks, I think, are really inchoate. Look, the U.S. government, we just had news today that Trump 86'd a executive order because he doesn't know what he wants to do about this sort of thing about AI safety. And if you can't even figure out what you want from a domestic regulatory perspective, are you really ready to put all the cards on the table and have this big, grand summit with the Chinese to make sure that bioweapons don't kill us all in 2029? I don't think so. I mean, it'll happen at some point, but it's just a little premature. I think maybe not from the technological perspective, but from a sort of policy perspective that you to expect much of a serious discussion between.
Are you? Sebastian Mallaby had an op-ed where he was sort of gesturing towards the possibility of more collaboration on AI between America and China. You have your hands in your face, or your face in your hands. So I assume you are skeptical that will take place anytime soon. But also the AI 2027 folks, very good at forecasting, have predicted a lot of what's happened. Say China wakes up in 2026.
Yeah, I mean, it's not impossible. I think the sort of look, if the American political system has not yet woken up to an understanding that you need a different regulatory strategy in order to keep humanity safe, I think it is unrealistic to expect a strategic adversary who is 6, 12, 18 months behind where you are on the sort of technology development trajectory to come to the same realization. Now, it'll happen at some point. I think this stuff is really powerful, and the sort of logic that America doesn't want bioweapons to be developed by Al Qaeda or ISIS or Hezbollah, just in the same way that China wouldn't want it to be done by the Falun Gong or Tibetan separatists or any group they see as like a non-state actor that would want to kind of take down the party applies, right? But China, I think, the Chinese leadership is deeply hardware pilled. I think they're deeply skeptical of these sorts of arguments on face because they're kind of sci-fi. And the sort of the analogy or the journey that the U.S. and Soviet Union went on over the course of the Cold War to start to have real kind of discussions about strategic stability and arms control happened after you had the Berlin crisis and after you had the Cuban Missile Crisis. So, look, Anthropic putting out a paper saying Claude Mythos is really scary is one thing, but it is different at a fundamental level than completely shaking a society and having the entire world realize that you are on the verge of apocalypse. So I hope we don't need that. But I am
haven't had the
not particularly optimistic that much will come of this in the before it really accelerates.
How much have you read into the theories that maybe China would fund data center pushback in the United States? I don't know that they would need to, but if they felt that was important enough, it would signal something about how they think about the technology.
I think this is cope by the labs. Look, the Russians won the election for Trump. Okay, and then, it is. I think Ben Thompson had the right take on this a few days ago. This can be solved with money. If you really put it, put the choice to a town saying, okay, we will pay everyone within a 20-mile radius $10,000 a year.
People will start
have this
moving.
Ugly thing.
People will start frantically trying to buy property.
wanting to live next door. Or look, make the data centers beautiful. Build a park on top of them. Give me some playgrounds.
That is the one that I'm the most skeptical of in the American society. I feel like companies will be paying dividends and mailing checks far beyond, long before anything looks beautiful in this country. We build massive, monolithic structures all the time. It's a lot of cement over here. I don't know.
Turn the GPU racks into free slots.
Every time I see one of these beautiful industrial structures, it's always in the Nordics. It's never in America. Sometimes it's in China. They build a train through a mountain.
So you have
the
data center. You got all the different racks of GPUs, and you just put a slot machine attached to each one of them.
Maybe
you can walk through and you get 3 or 4.
I wonder what's that? Those cell phone towers that look like trees. And I don't think they look any better, really. But I guess they do sort of blend in. I wonder what the economic mechanism was for going that direction. Because when I'm driving in LA, I see normal cell phone towers and I see fake tree cell phone towers. And there had to be a reason. It has extra cost to make it look like a tree. Is that just a choice? Is this a nonprofit that's funding this? Who's lobbying for this? Is there a law? I don't know. We got to dig into it.
Can we please get the TBPN segment?
Yeah, we need to dig into this.
The tree phone poll.
Come for the questions, not the answers. I'm just riffing about things I don't know and would like to know.
Every time I drive by and they get me, I just start slapping.
Wait, really?
And I'm like, you got me, big telecom. You got me. I thought it was a tree.
From the distance.
Me.
Yeah.
No, every time.
Well, the bad ones are when they're 5 times as tall as all the other trees around. You're just and the branches only start 4/5 of the way up.
Yeah.
It's just
It's very half-hearted in its attempt at disguising itself. Ridiculous. On other China issues, did you see there are two sort of dueling predictions. Maybe I'm making them dueling predictions. Chamath Palihapitiya says Taiwan not going to be a factor geopolitically in 18 months. Dan Wong has talked about how technologists overrepresent the chip story in the Taiwan story. And in fact, the discussion over Taiwan goes back much further and is grounded in more of like capitalist versus communist decision-making and alliances. Where do you stand on Taiwan today versus in 2 years?
I have to acknowledge Chamath's existence. I refuse to do that. I think that Taiwan is a place that has mattered for a while and will continue to matter for a very long time to come. I mean, first, only on the chips thing, the idea, like, I don't know,
semi-analysis, like the
percentage of chips that are going to be manufactured in Taiwan 18 months from now is still going to
be like 85%
or 90%. So yeah, it used to, it was 100% for a window. I am glad Intel isn't a flaming pile of crap anymore. And it's like nice to see Samsung also starting to get their act together. But if really that's the only thing you care about, no, you will still have a, global economic catastrophe if the lights go off in Taiwan in 2028. Now, why should you care about Taiwan besides the chips? I mean, it's a democracy. People have, deserve to have self-determination. We can set principles aside if we really have to do that. But look, I think from a sort of geostrategic perspective, there's also this kind of concept of the first island chain. I think it makes the broader Pacific architecture that America has built over the course of the past 75 years in Asia a lot more tenuous if all of a sudden, the kind of anchor to both Southeast Asia as well as North Asia becomes, a PL and base. So, they're wrong.
Yeah. So many reasons that Taiwan will remain important into the distant future, regardless of what happens with Intel and TSMC Arizona, et cetera. Agree with you on that. What do you think the next catalyst might be in the rare earth story? Because we're starting to see rumblings about funding for American indigenous supply chains there. Eventually that becomes at least a stalking horse, if not a poker chip on the table, on the bargaining table. But where are we on the rare earth stalemate that became an important bargaining chip somewhat recently, as you put it in the intro?
I mean, it's a really interesting question. I've read reports saying that even 5 years from now, the leverage is going to still exist. And I think there's a sort of broader question of like, this is the second largest country in the world and largest economy in the world, and it's going to stay that way for a really long time. Yeah. And the sort of ambition to fully decouple such that China does not have leverage over the U.S. Economy and can kind of squeeze it coercively seems to me to be a very tricky thing. Now, you can spend lots of money to sort of make that less acute or sort of turn it down over time or protect the particular things if you're worried about, individual, like specialized inputs into fighter jets or, something that would be really catastrophic, like insulin getting cut off or something. It is, this is like a generational challenge of shoring this up, and B, there's also an offensive side, right? Of escalation dominance in deterring an adversary from squeezing on stuff like this also requires you to be able to sort of credibly send signals that you can take pain and cause pain in a way that would require the other party to back down and not necessarily use these tools. So we're at this like awkward equilibrium. I think there's a lot of like hard thinking that still needs to be done to like like really conceptualize like what's the right way to spend money and the right way to think about this relationship. We actually just ran an essay contest on China Talk about economic security. We're going to be, I have at 4 p.m. we're doing a megapod with 3 of the winners.
Amazing.
So maybe I'll have a better answer for you after that.
love it.
But it's a hard one.
Does Xi day trade prolifically?
Who's the best day trader in the global
In power
elite?
in China?
Here's the thing. I got a piece coming out about comparing American and Chinese corruption. And
Wow.
the difference is that in China, they still feel like they have to hide it.
Okay. Well, will be an
Black
interesting
belt.
piece. Shifting gears, both literally and figuratively. Cars. Have you driven any Chinese vehicles? Have you been outside in the BYD? Are you planning
You're doing car reviews on China Talk.
I would love to see one. Have you been in a Zeekr? I keep seeing these. They look amazing.
Zeekers. I
heard
watch
this?
a lot of YouTuber.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of YouTube and Billy reviews.
Okay.
I have been in a BYD in Norway, of all
Norway.
places. They had it like in the main
Yeah.
like park. They had a giant setup. It's really impressive.
Yeah.
You should get some American car manufacturers on and yell at them. It's pretty embarrassing. One of the more interesting developments, I don't know if you guys have been tracking this,
No.
the Waymo using a Zeekr body.
Yeah, crazy.
And
I would have thought there were import restrictions because if Zeekr's not here, BYD's not here, you would think that like the supply chain would be restricted, but they must have found a way around.
So the trick is that it's the chassis and the battery and literally nothing else.
Yeah.
So they are saving money on that, but like the rules right now are just on all of the sort of like electronics and connected anything. So Waymo is filling up the entire car with stuff that is not
they make. Interesting. Okay.
Chinese.
Yeah, well, that's probably like more reassuring that Xi Jinping won't be teleoperating. You'll have a Waymo employee beaming in if you see a traffic cone out of place.
What do you? How much attention do you pay to their like humanoid antics? Like I feel like they're just leaking out videos of just this like all this silly stuff to kind of just get us a little bit comfortable with it. But if you actually go there on the ground, it's like droid army. They've got like 100,000 humanoids marching in unison, and then they just put out the video of it like dancing to Michael Jackson, like collapsing and getting dragged off stage.
It's interesting because there isn't a market yet, right? Like these are toys and these are like things you sell to universities for research. But at some point there will be. And then there's going to be a really interesting challenge of like whether or not I think there's like some level of consensus now that the Western makers have like smarter software. But if you can like, it's one thing to fast follow the models themselves, but like if you can apply them like at 100x scale, right? Then it could be really dramatic. I mean, I'm not doing like the episode, Star Wars episode 1 like droid army. Like well that might take a few more cycles, but just from
can you imagine a Chinese humanoid company trying to distill Tesla Optimus after they have a fantastic data breakthrough and they're just having all the Optimus work in cubes, like trying to farm the data out of it? Like
I just feel like it's such a
God, that's brilliant.
Because you have to physically distill the data. So you buy 1 million Tesla Optimus robots and lock them in a warehouse so that they can move boxes for you, so then you can distill it into your own robots or something.
This is a company. This is an RL environment.
Yes.
I love it. I should start this.
In China?
You're just like
reseller.
in the U.S.
You need a hairdryer to remove the Optimus sticker and slap on some other sticker. That's where the money's being made these days. But you got to hide that corruption.
And
George,
it's really great that we have a software advantage and they have a hardware advantage on this. Right? Like, that's really bullish for us.
Yeah, because software.
Because they would never be able to copy like software off of a hard drive and put it on their hardware. Right?
Well, and that's the thing is like, this is the difference with AI, right?
Yeah.
Is at least America has way more chips and way more compute, as long as Taiwan still exists.
Yeah, we have a hardware advantage.
But that will not be the case for the like, humanoid embodied AI takeoff. Is like the thing you need to actually use the fancy model is almost certainly going to be manufactured in China and manufactured at a scale that could be like, multiple orders of magnitude bigger than in the West. Now, this may change like once this becomes economic.
Yeah.
Right.
America can. I mean, like you look at space. Like we have multiple companies that land rockets. It's very capital intensive. It's an industrial process. You would assume that China would win that, but we have a lead in mass to orbit still, and so it's not impossible. But we do tend to let our leads languish, like we have in the car industry, seemingly.
And it'll be interesting because there'll be this lag where China, like, because they already have all these humanoid companies that like have the ability to scale, will scale faster once the kind of like economic utility of these things turns on.
Yeah, definitely.
If you believe in AI progress, do you have to believe in a Taiwan invasion? Because assuming we keep making progress or we have accelerating progress, doesn't that just increase the prize for
but it might increase
Taiwan?
The defensive capabilities.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think there's like plenty of other things you can do to be obnoxious. And there's so much. This is why Chamath is wrong about everything, is because it's not all about technology. Like there are other risks and incentives and like institutional dynamics and historical dynamics at play. And there are a whole lot of downsides to starting something that you don't know how it's going to end, which is a lesson that she has now got to relearn from Putin over the past 5 years. So
that makes sense.
What last thing, we touched on it briefly, and then I know we're over time. What happens with Manus? What's your prediction? Are they gonna buy the company back from Meta and just head home? Is there any precedent for something like this?
I don't really understand. I mean, like, all of the employees, like, do they have to give the tech back? They weren't really buying the tech. They were buying it was like an acqui-hire. Everyone's in Singapore except for the two founders. So, like, maybe the founders just get screwed out of all this money and, the employees continue on their merry way in Singapore. I think it's a messy one. And I don't know, like, Meta eats a loss.
Yeah.
Something. I hope Bill Gurley's
Before
okay.
you go, we have an answer to the question of telephone pole camouflage. Tyler, do you want to give us a little update on this? Can we do? Let's cut to Tyler.
Telephone pole camouflage basically began after the 1996 Telecommunications Act. So it basically like restricted the ability of local communities to regulate like the actual placement of the telephone pole.
So a city can't say you can't put a telephone pole there, you can't put a cell phone tower there, but they responded.
But they basically made it so. Whoa, wait. They made it so
Stop.
The local governments would say you have to camouflage it, right? So now we see there's all different
forms of these. There's trees, there's cacti, there's like church steeples.
Yeah,
big group of these.
A lot of chipmunks run up and down those poles too, right?
And camouflage can add over 100,000 to tower construction prices, which is still cheaper than losing the site. Tree towers can cost up to double.
Hey, two can play this game. You have a
soundboard too?
I got my buttons.
We have a guest with buttons. Let's see. Can he get it to work?
Uh-oh. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Another one.
That's a narrative violation. Will it work?
Okay.
Let's find out.
Your buttons aren't working.
Anyway.
But bring him next time.
Bring him next time.
We'll do it again
It's been
soon.
too long. We'll talk to you soon, Jordan. Have a great
to
rest
see
of
you.
your day. Hey, it's working. There we go. Hey, very well done. Thank you so much for taking the time. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon. We went over time, so we will bring in our next guest immediately. We have Christina Lee Storm from Secret Level. Welcome to the show. Sorry for the delay.
What's happening?
Hey, How's it going?
We're having a little too much fun with our
We're having
soundboard.
fun with a regular.
I love it. It's
playing
great.
sound cues, all sorts of stuff. But since it is your first time on the show, please introduce yourself a little bit.
Hi, I'm Christina Lee Storm. I am head of studio over at Secret Level, which is an AI native studio.
Yeah.
And I also am co-founder over at Playbook PLBK.
Yeah.
I identify myself as a producer, like a independent film producer.
Yeah. How are you thinking about the blurry line of how AI works its way into productions these days? You know, you have Toy Story with CGI. You also have, you know, a little set extension, and maybe even a little CGI creeps into a Nolan movie every once in a while. But AI is very different. People are thinking, maybe it'll generate the whole movie. Maybe it'll just sort of, you know, make a green screen a little bit sharper. How are you thinking about the opportunities and the trade-offs?
I mean, it's interesting because we've had technology in the entertainment industry for a while. I was a consulting producer on a film called Jurassic Punk, which was about the birth of computer graphics. Yeah. It was about a gentleman who was from Canada. His name was Steve Williams, and he actually created the first walk cycle. T-Rex for Jurassic Park, and he was a total rebel. And in the documentary, we talk about how he just felt like, you know, we could do this with computer graphics. At the time, Jurassic Park was like, hey, we're going to do it animatronics, we're going to do it old school, we'll do it on set. And there was an ability to actually now like, wait, hold on a second, we could create this. And so when Spielberg and Kathleen Kennedy saw the first walk cycles, he was playing it on his computer screen. You know, just sort of, he knew when they were going to walk by. It changed everything, and that was the birth of computer graphics. So we know that technology has always been a part of that story, and so I think, you know, it is quite. A lot of people like to use the headlines like disruptive, but I think it's just an ongoing process of how things should sort of evolve. And me being, my background's traditional production producer, I've been an independent producer for a while. I think it's part of the process. And I think before, I think a lot of producers would just offline, you know, any kind of technology or any specialty to different departments or groups. And today, I think anyone who's going to really survive and thrive into the new world order of this, you know, everything's sort of shifting and changing. We have to actually lean in. And there's this interesting like technology, storytelling, you know, convergence, entertainment that is exciting. And I think, you know, that's,
on the topic of Jurassic Park, grade this prediction. Jurassic Park, massive success. The franchise has grossed, I think, billions, maybe over $1 billion. It's a fantastic financial success. But interestingly, Jurassic Park, of course, is owned by Universal, and but dinosaurs are not particular intellectual property. It's not like Superman. The T-Rex is not something that a studio can own. Oddly, no other studio has created like the Superman to Spider-Man. There's not the Marvel universe to the DC universe. I would have expected a reaction series to Jurassic Park and that IP library at some point. Never really developed. But in the age of AI, where it's increasingly easy to generate imagery of dinosaurs, and you don't have any intellectual property concerns because you're not recreating a particular actor, I predict that there will be a massive surge in dinosaur-themed movies. What do you think?
Need to create the Dino Prize, the Coogan Dino Prize.
The Dino Prize.
What do you think? Is there anything here? Am I thinking about it correctly?
I think that you're on the right track in terms of like dinosaurs are not, you know, there's not a particular IP, but here's the thing. And this is sort of where it does fall back to traditional methods. It's like the storytelling is everything. Like you could have, there's a lot of different ways, you know, that you can tell and share stories, but it's really what is the specific, you know, what are the specific things with the character, what's happening, what's the world. And so, someone could come up with a dinosaur type movie, but what is it? Why is that special? Why is that undeniable for someone to say, yes, I want to watch that and I want to engage in that. So I think the concept of that is good. I think, you know, at the end of the day,
potentially half-baked, but we'll get
well, that's the difference between really great, like, you know, no matter what the technology is, you have to still be a really good storyteller.
Please.
Article in the Wall Street Journal this morning about a new film called Hellgrind that's, I guess, premiering at Cannes. They're saying that it cost $500,000 to make, and around 400,000 of that was compute. I'm sure there were, there with all of these things, there ends up being costs that aren't kind of captured on maybe a napkin.
Sort of a deep seek moment.
Yes. But is this the beginning of like, do you expect hundreds of these over the next year? I imagine you're hearing and seeing a lot that are in the works and working on some yourself, but
So, I mean, I think there are, I actually didn't go this year. I usually go every year. I knew that there was going to be a lot of announcements about different projects and things, and at secret level, we actually will have an announcement next week. I was like, should I come on the show today? Because next week there's going to be, I'm happy to come back. But at the end of the day, I think, let's just be real. Let me just be real. There's a lot of things that are being pioneered. Like, what are the costs? What's happening here? How do we align with even like guild related things that are issues? How can we, it's not just like, let me just get this out. I think there's something even bigger to that degree. I think a lot of people could say, yeah, I can make a movie, but I think it's really, again, I'm going to fall back on story. I'm going to fall back on what is the process in which that's going to happen. Like at secret level, we have our own proprietary workflow pipeline that really, really allows us to scale. And I think those costs, when those get flagged, it's like, what's the total cost in it? There are a lot of costs. And so I think it's really, I think when people talk about like the budget and they're just focused on the budget, I think they've missed the mark on the bigger.
So what is your, maybe it's too early to say, but what do you think is going to be the winning formula? Obviously it's still an experimental time, but you said story matters a lot. Obviously technology matters a lot, what models you're using, but where are you thinking of taking, traditional filmmaking approaches versus like reinventing your approach?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things here. Great questions, Rudy. I think that there will, there was a time where like independent film was like on the rise. It was awesome. We saw really great filmmakers come out of that, like, going to Sundance and whatnot. And I think that that's really important to feed and bring about like creativity, really great stories. So I do believe that with the tools, we have more of an opportunity for independence to sort of bring that to the forefront. But again, story, it's about the story. Like, is it going to be a really great story? I think the other piece is will we see this? I kind of share with this because I've been a former surviving studio executive and also a producer. And I think that what's neat is, is the chasm going to widen? Like, how do we sort of bring that? Do we want to bring the chasm closer together so it's not just traditional, studio fare, or do we want to like really see these independent voices come out and we can see those play out? And I think as time tells and how people will refine their storytelling abilities, I think that's really important. I think there's also, to be honest, there's a way in which filmmakers who use AI tools are using it at the best abilities. Is it almost a slight variation than maybe a traditional approach from let's just say like a studio, pipeline type film. I think, and that reminds me of like, when George Lucas came out, like, he was breaking new ground in technology. It was like, this doesn't exist. So how do we create something that doesn't exist? And I think we have to allow for that creativity to birth.
Totally.
I want to take a question from the chat. What is your favorite movie?
Oh gosh. Woo, I have a lot.
Or maybe something just with a great story that you think is
I love
unique.
Inception.
Inception. That's a great movie. Have you seen that?
I have.
Yeah, there we go.
I like to say, and I'm going to embarrass him, our founder, Jason Zada from Secret Level. I call him like he's like the like the blossoming Chris Nolan.
Whoa.
And he's just really creative. The way he approaches story.
Does he use a phone? Christopher Nolan famously no phone.
It's a no phone guy.
This week he did an interview with he doesn't no email either. Printed out emails if somebody needs to email him. No phone. Also doesn't like maps because they reorient you. They don't always face north, and he doesn't consider that a map. Very interesting lifestyle.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I would say Inception. I would say like let's go really old school. It's a Wonderful Life.
Ooh, yeah.
And then if I get my like just real old school. I love like great character based. When Harry Met Sally. I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
I'm all over the place. I like being that way so people can't say, oh, like sci-fi or she, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
Godfather.
I saw When Harry Met Sally at an outdoor movie theater at one of the screenings you buy tickets to, seeing an old movie outside with a bunch of people. Tons of fun.
Last question from the chat.
Yeah.
What is your single favorite piece of fully AI generated content? It could be like 30 seconds long, a minute long. I can't really expect anything else. I think for us, it's like the Harry Potter Balenciaga, which funny enough was like
Pope
a
in the
year,
coat.
a year and a half ago, maybe at this point.
So if you haven't seen it, yes, there's a secret level, the heist.
Okay.
Watch the heist. When Jason shared his first 30 seconds, I was like, okay,
we got something.
We're cooking.
We're approaching some really interesting things. So
that's great.
You can see a lot of things at secret level.
Yeah. I love it.
At CO. So,
amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking the time.
Really great to meet you.
It's great to meet you.
Make sure to share your announcement next week with us. And
I will.
Cover it on the show.
Can't wait.
Have a great rest of your day.
Cheers.
Talk to you
Christina.
soon. Goodbye.
Bye.
Up next, our last guest, Eric from Modal Labs, with some big news.
It's been a minute.
I'm excited to catch up. How you been?
Good.
You been busy? What'd you do?
Cooking.
Tell us what happened.
We just announced a C round today, which is very exciting.
How much?
How much?
4.65 post value.
Fantastic.
Raising 355 million. So General Catalyst led it together with Redpoint.
Fantastic.
What was the specific catalyst that led to this round?
There's been a lot of stuff that's been going on. I think one particular exciting moment in the last 12 months, or really the last 6 months, has been we now have a product called Sandboxes that's just growing insanely fast, almost 2x every month for the last 6 months. So Sandboxes, if you don't know, basically the idea is like you can take typically LM generated code and execute it in a safe environment. So it powers a lot of reinforcement learning, powers a lot of vibe coding apps, a lot of background agents. But yeah, I mean, in general, we've seen tremendous growth also with inference. Modal has always been we started a company 5 years ago with the idea of building pretty general purpose infrastructure. We felt that a lot of infrastructure wasn't really built for AI. And so when you look at all these companies out there building sort of AI applications, they all need different things. Some of them need sandboxes, inference, training, batch jobs, like all kinds of stuff. And our goal is to provide all of that and really kind of build a new sort of, almost like a new cloud in a way that supports all these types of very cool applications.
Very cool. I feel like it's been almost a year since you were on, which is like 15 years. 15 years.
I think it's back in October.
Ways. October. Well, there we go. Feels
September.
like a year ago, even though it's maybe less. What have been the key kind of inflection points since then? Sandboxes sounds like one, but I imagine a lot of this is. The space is moving so quickly. If you get a signal from 2 or 3 customers, hey, we have this problem, can you build a solution? And then you can just see tremendous growth in like a very short period of time. And so in some ways, like you have an existing portfolio of products that are all, growing, but are you trying to constantly be making, new bets based on customer needs, or is that maybe not even the approach?
I think one of the benefits of building infrastructure is like you can sort of look at customers, of course, and see what they're doing. But I think with infrastructure, you can also sort of argue a little bit more from like first principles, like what are the building blocks that people are going to need in terms of compute. So Sandboxes was actually something we launched 3 years ago, and it really started taking off like nuts in the summer last year. And similarly, I think with inference is sort of similar. We launched it almost 4 years ago. We're working on some other really cool stuff around training and some other products. And I think one of the benefits of infrastructure is you can have a little bit more sort of a first principle, like, let's build the right building blocks and then let our customers sort of figure out what to use them for.
How do you think about planning? Like planning demand.
Add a zero to last year.
Add two zeros to everything.
Exactly,
No, but it just feels like the best. This is the hardest like demand planning challenge that really any set of businesses have ever faced in history.
It's rough. For us, it's like we basically look at like the last couple of months, figure out we're growing 30-40% every month. You just take the power of 3. That's how much you're going to need in 3 months. That's how many GPUs. You go out and get those GPUs. You can typically get GPUs with like about 3 months in advance.
Sure.
But yeah, that's a big part of how we think about the business today. It's like we need to get the GPUs now that we're going to need in 3 to 6 months, which is a lot.
Yeah. In some ways, it's like not too dissimilar to the challenges that consumer packaged goods founders facing. You're growing super quickly, but if you want to stay on that growth curve, it means you need to be committing to things, now and committing capital. But really
what's exciting to you across?
Well, luckily we have capital now.
Yeah. Well, what's exciting to you across the semiconductor ecosystem? There's a whole bunch of ASIC startups that have been on the show. Cerebras IPO'd. Every hyperscaler is working on different chips at this point. What's most interesting? What's under discussed? What's on your roadmap, or what have you already sort of sunk your teeth into?
Yeah, there's some like really cool alternative accelerators. I'm quite bullish on TPUs, AMD, Trainium, like all of these things.
Yeah.
We see zero demand from our customers for any of those things, to be clear.
Because only the really big labs, Anthropic, can actually go and figure out how to run it. Is that the
exactly?
issue?
Yeah, I think the cost today of rewriting your software to run on those stacks is just like very high.
Sure.
So while I remain like very bullish on this sort of 2-3 year horizon, I do also want to temper the expectation a little bit. Like this,
it sort of has a fixed cost to rewriting for that chip stack, and if you're not doing billions a month in revenue, it's hard to amortize that cost.
That's exactly right. Yeah. It's just not worth it unless you're operating at a very large scale. So, but I think that cost is going to go down over time. We're going to have software that basically lets you take existing CUDA compatible stuff and run it on other alternative accelerators. So I think it would be good for everyone to have a little bit more competition in the space, but we also love Nvidia, and that's what our customers want today.
That's great. Do you have a view or any opinions or predictions about the compute futures market that's been talked about? I've seen like these price charts of like B200s going up and down. Everyone is trying to read the tea leaves, understand where we are in the various AI cycles based on it. But is that something that's relevant or important at all? Do you look at that data? Do you have your own internal data set that's more relevant to you?
We look at it a lot. Also, like I feel like we're very plugged into the market. We talk to neoclouds all the time. We get capacity all over the place. So we have like a very good like pulse of the market. I think the market's going to remain quite tight.
Yeah.
I think fundamentally, like also like that's a big part of what we do is like we offer that as a product. Like don't think about capacity, come to us instead.
Yeah.
And so that becomes now our problem is like managing that capacity for thousands of companies at the same time. Like we built a multi-tenant product that sort of aggregates all that demand. So if you need 1,000 GPUs, you can come to us and we'll give you those GPUs like often within minutes because we have like a very big pool we can sort of tap from.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think GPUs are going to be tight. We look at the prices; they keep going up. At some point, obviously, I think it's going to normalize, like most markets do. But it might remain tight for the next year or two.
When I think about the big applications of a big pool of compute, I think training and inference of LLMs, coding models, agentic workflows. I think image, video, audio generation. What's next? What do you think the next big driver of demand is? Is it world models? Do those fit in? Are those structurally different? Is there something else that you're tracking where you're seeing customers come to you? It's sort of like a different product, but it fits in the same shape so you can work with them as a business partner.
Yeah, we have a very wide range of customers. So we have everything from Suno, which generates music using AI, Cognition is training coding models using reinforcement learning. Ramp uses us for background agents. We have a lot of vibe coding platforms like Lovable. We also have, drug discovery companies like Chai using us to simulate, molecular dynamics, and we have weather forecasting companies, robotics. So we have, very general, we look at across like a lot of different verticals. Obviously, like the big application in the last couple of years has been LM inference, and that keeps growing a lot. But we've also seen some really cool applications with diffusion models. In terms of what I look forward to, like I think that probably personally the coolest thing I kind of expect to happen in the next couple of years is speech to speech. Like imagine just like talking to a computer. In order to figure that out, we need to get the latency down. For all the three components of speech to speech, doing the LM and the text to speech and stuff like that. So that's something very cool. But I'm also really cool about. I think it's incredibly cool if we can, I don't know, cure cancer or something like that. Like,
it's interesting because I'm with you on that timeline. Speech to speech being somewhat impressive, but you're often not actually hitting a real reasoning model. There's so much speed up. We probably need to be 100x faster, 1000x faster on the response time to really have a breakout moment. And then you watch Google I/O this week and you see with Omni a glimpse of, okay, it's more like a FaceTime call with the AI and it's generating a video in real time. And you know how long it takes to crank on video models to get an 8-second clip. It's minutes and minutes. And they still have errors and stuff. And we're still not even at the superhuman element. So lots to do, lots of servers to rack, lots of GPUs to set on fire, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And CPUs.
Any plans to actually, go full stack, get your own, land, powered shells, et cetera? Is that like not the highest and best use of your guys's, talents?
We think of our value as like adding a big software layer on top of the underlying computer, on the underlying compute layer. So we think of ourselves as almost like a cloud, like one layer up from the existing clouds. The existing clouds are very good at running computers, in the cloud and offering that through an API. We would love to keep tapping that as much as we can. If we can't get the capacity we need, we might have to build it ourselves. Ultimately, it's like, it's a kind of a economics question or practical question. I wouldn't rule out any sort of move. The idea of, racking computers and plugging in cables and dealing with, fires in data centers and whatnot, like to me, that's not super appealing, but at the end of the day, we'll do it if we have to, absolutely.
Yeah, makes sense.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, congrats to the whole team
so
on an awesome milestone and incredible progress. It felt like a year.
It's
only been since October.
Only a couple months.
Yeah, it's like 10 AI years.
I love it. Congratulations. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Have a great rest of your day. Let's click through the timeline, see if there's anything that we missed before we jump off. DJ Kaus has an idea here. Found a $10 bill. It took 5 seconds to pick it up. That's $63 million in annualized ARR. This is the thinking you need to be deploying if you're going to be raising money potentially. No, don't do that.
I didn't know that Messi, the football player, had a prime copycat called Moss. And it's shutting down after 23 months in business.
I wonder if that has to do with the logistics of shipping internationally, because he is an international icon, but setting up distribution and retail presence across many countries very quickly. It's not quite as easy as dropping it on Amazon and flying off the shelves. A lot of those are sort of one country by country, and I wonder if that has a piece of what happened. So this is shutting down fully, Moss Plus. Interesting. Well, Mitchell Baldridge recommends setting up a Vanguard account. Not Fidelity, not Schwab, Vanguard. Smart advice, you might think. They do have the lowest fees. If you want to get up to speed on Vanguard, listen to the latest episode of the Acquired FM podcast. But he says wrong. It's not because they have the lowest fees. It's because their interface is so awful you will never trade. It has made his clients millions.
Let's close it out with this video.
What you got?
Playing Catan with a billionaire.
Yes.
I think you'll like.
What is this face? Is this a face filter or a background replacement or both? Something funny is going on here.
Face filter.
Okay, face filter.
My turn. I'm going to put down a data center.
That's against the rules.
How else am I supposed to AI generate my Christmas card?
Not popular.
I'm not joking.
The way you walk, the way you understand me.
Do you like it?
No, it's blocking all the land.
Wait a minute. Are you one of those paid protesters?
The way you move, the way you just whisper.
Next turn, I'm going to use 7 water on my data center.
That's not how that works. That's not a resource in the
7
game.
water.
How else am I supposed to power it?
The water stuff is really, it's so interesting that no one has moved to energy. Like natural gas, there are natural gas turbines that would be opposed, and yet people are focused on
Stop
water.
giving them ideas.
I know, I'm doing their job for them, I suppose, but it's like I don't know why the water. I think it's just because like water's delicious and electricity is vague and abstract, and you don't think about it. Like you can visualize a glass of water. It's hard to visualize a battery in the same way. But yeah, what is it? It's like dozens of LLM queries every day for a full year is equivalent to eating a single almond, something like that. But Matthew Ball is back at Xbox. Congratulations on the move. He announced it yesterday. We're going to try and get him on the show because he's one of my favorite people, favorite authors. If you haven't read his book or his blog, he has a fantastic mind for future of technology, and I could not be more optimistic about the future of Xbox with him on the team. Take Him says this hire is a literal game changer. Matthew Ball knows gaming and what needs to be done. This news makes me the most bullish I've been on Xbox in 7 years, and I completely agree.
And to close it out, the White House is awarding $2 billion in grants.
Oh yeah,
$1 billion of
quantum
it directly
computing
to IBM to 9 quantum computing companies in taking an equity stake. So
Equity
they're grants, but
Yep.
we're taking an equity stake.
It's an investment.
It's an investment.
It's an investment, and you, American taxpayer, will now own a basket of quantum computing companies.
Spaghetti computing is up.
That's not spaghetti computing. It's rigetti computing.
Spaghetti computing is up 30%.
Who calls it that? Who came up with that? That seems like a Trump, something he would say.
I created that.
You created that, okay.
Just now.
I like spaghetti.
I'm sure I'm not the first person to think of it, but anyways, folks.
Thanks for watching. Leave us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Sign up for our newsletter at tbpn.com. And we will see you tomorrow, Friday. Goodbye. We'll smoke
We love you. Have a wonderful evening.